listening to the Northern Hunter Podcast, home of all things hunting, fishing, and outdoors in Alaska. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. My name is James Payne, and today we've got another full house episode for you guys. We've got Mo working the controls. Dalton's here for today's conversation. Chris is joining us in the studio, and all of us are sitting down with Rob Morse from Morse Custom Hides. Thank you so much for spending your evening with us. Yeah, no problem at all. I'm excited for this episode. It's pretty pertinent to what's coming up at the fall season, so everybody's going to be out there. You know, it's a little bit different. Obviously, we're going to be talking about hides. You know, I kind of figured that was, you know, you work at a custom hide shop, so. But we're talking about hides, hide prep, all that stuff, because in the fall seasons, people are spending a lot more time out in the field. That's one thing I'm excited to talk about tonight. If you like what you hear, it really helps us out if you give us a review and a rating on whatever platform you're listening to it on, be it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever it is. 5 stars is always best. That really helps us out. And a written review goes a long way in helping people know what they're going to hear and push this out to a new audience, bigger audience. Helps us do more stuff and create more content. So if you could do us that favor and go give us a rating and a review and maybe even hit that share button if you think anybody would enjoy the content that we're talking about in these episodes. There's always a share button there. So feel free to send this to as many people as you want. Another thing we're going to be sharing is an event that is coming up, the Full Draw Film Tour. Dalton, why don't you tell folks a little bit about that?
Well, last week we talked about it, and this week we can talk about it with confidence. It is 100% booked.
Details are hammered out.
Yes, and everything stayed the same for the most part. It is going to be August 1st, a Thursday night, so that we're not interrupting your weekend. You can come here for the Full Draw Film Tour. It is a bow hunting film expo, if you will. It's just a movie night for hunters and outdoorsmen. And you don't have to be a bow hunter to attend. There's a lot of door prizes that are going to be there from a lot of the sponsors that help put this event on. I know there's a lot of different companies that are sending things up. One of them is Hoyt. I think they're actually going to have a rep there in town. Screaming Eagle Archery. We had the owner, Chris Alderman, on the podcast here a number of episodes back now.
Great guy.
He's the other one that's really orchestrating all this happening. And the owner of Full Draw contacted Chris and said that they wanted to do the event again in Fairbanks this year. This is the second year in a row. And so that they had a good turnout last year. So we're looking to repeat that and even increase the audience. So it's going to start at 7 o'clock, and it is at the Centennial Center Theater at Pioneer Park. It is 2300 Airport Way in Fairbanks. And for those of you that are OG Fairbanksans, it is still Alaska land. Mm-hmm. So it's the big round building in the middle of Pioneer Park. Yeah, it's a short walk from the parking lot.
And there's plenty of parking.
Lots of parking. Yeah. Lots of parking, lots of seating in the auditorium. Tickets for an adult are $22, and tickets for children are $12. So we will have cold beverages provided. It is summertime. And so those will be on site. There's going to be no food at the event, so grab some supper beforehand. 7 o'clock, doors will be open about 6 or 6:30. We'll be setting things up so you guys can come and filter into your space and, you know, get ready for the event. We'll have a film and then a short break in between each one. I think there are 7 submitted films, and I think they're going to range in runtime between 10 and 20 minutes or so, just depending on the one.
So it's a short film festival.
Yeah, short films. And these are all done by hunters just for fun, just to enter this competition. One of them I know is a full-time videographer in the hunting industry. I think the rest of them are probably more of the amateur status. But they're just entering just for fun, show these films, and they can win a prize for having the best film. And you can also vote on which one you think is the best film.
So it's like the Oscars.
Yeah, pretty much. Like the Oscars.
Teen Choice Awards.
But camo. It's like the Oscars, but camo.
Yeah.
So yeah, come on out and tell your friends about it. Share it on Facebook. You can find information about the event at fulldrawfilmtour.com and then go to the dates and events page on their website. And you can also buy your tickets on there as well. So
perfect. And we'll put a link in that in the description of this show. I don't remember if I put it in there last week. I meant to, but I don't think at the time, I don't know if everything was hammered out yet.
I don't think it was all online yet.
So this week, look in the show notes. There'll be a link there. You can just click that and get your tickets if you'd like to attend. We'll also be updating our story on social media and all that. So follow us on at thenorthernhunter.com or at the northernhunter.com. Or not .com. The handle at the Northern Hunter.
On Instagram.
And we'll keep you up to date there with any changes that might come down the pipeline as well.
Yep.
You'll be there, Dalton. You're going to be doing some presenting. I'll be there with a table. You can come talk to us. I believe Mo said you want to come.
I'm planning on being there.
All right.
I might need your help with the sound system, Mariah.
Are they going to know all that already?
Oh, you're coming.
Okay.
And Chris, you said you might show up as well. So.
Oh yeah, I'm going to drag little man and the wife.
Perfect. So
that's a good little thing to go check out.
So come for the films, come check it out, and chat with us while you're there. It'll be a great time. But all right, let's take a break real quick.
All right, folks. We all know that one of the most common mishaps in hunting is damage to your rifle scope. Last year, I found the solution to that problem with the Stealthy Hunter rifle cover. It wraps around your scope and actions securely to protect it from getting knocked off of zero or even severely damaged. Stealthy Hunter also has a glassing pad and a wide variety of supplements for the outdoorsman, such as protein powder, CBD products, turmeric, and gut health supplements. They also make a lightweight trauma kit weighing in at just 14 ounces that includes everything you need and nothing you don't for all of your backcountry medical emergencies. To shop all of their equipment and supplements, go to stealthyhunter.com and enter the discount code at checkout, The Northern Hunter, to save on your order today. All Stealthy Hunter equipment is proudly made in the USA.
All right, so Rob, let's get into a little bit more of your backstory. So obviously you talked about your business and what you do here and where you're from, but what brought you up to Alaska?
Well, short answer is military.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in southeast Kansas, like I said before. Moved from there 13 years old, moved to Wyoming. When I finished high school, I joined the Marine Corps right out the gate, and I spent 4 years in there. And then I immediately switched over to the Army to fly helicopters. And
you flew helicopters?
Yeah, I flew Apache.
No kidding.
AH-64 Apaches, yeah.
Nice.
Wow.
Yep, for my last 12 years or so.
Wow. That's a cool gig.
Yeah, so when we were stationed at Fort Riley, Kansas, and we had the opportunity to choose our duty station, which would be our last duty station before retirement. And we'd both had been watching the show Mountain Men since it's, 2009, I guess it came out or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'd always just loved seeing that, just wanted to do it. I felt like a calling. I was like, we got to go to Alaska. I want to start hunting. I want to start trapping. I want to start tanning. And we were fortunate enough to get this duty station up here. And within the first year, we knew we were staying.
Oh, yeah.
Which I was a little surprised because my wife's from California. And
I would say, was she was on board with staying?
She was on board, yeah. I don't think I could get her out of here, even if I wanted to go.
You know, when I talk to fellow veterans that have stayed here, that's typically the biggest fight, honestly, is trying to get their wives to admit to agree to stay here.
Yeah, not in my case.
Yeah.
No, she hunts with me. She processes meat with me. She does skulls on the side, and
awesome.
She's right in it.
Perfect.
Nice.
Yeah. No, that's the best. Honestly, the best way to experience Alaska for the first time, I think, because you're getting paid to be here.
Yeah.
Like if you're in the military and you're thinking about wanting to check out Alaska, don't wait till you get out. Like do like what you did. Like if you're going to re-up anyways, get stationed at Wainwright. I've heard it's a lot better now than it was when I was there. So
yeah, unfortunately on the flip side of that too, I hear a lot of soldiers talk about, how boring it is up here, the depression and stuff like that. You got to get out. You've got to get out. Even if it's not hunting or trapping, you've got to get out.
I can attest to that because, these days, like what Mike's doing on Wainwright, that's a huge step for kind of access for these military guys to get into the outdoors world here.
Yeah.
Because
very important.
When I was first new here, it was super hard to get anybody to even talk to me about it because you're just another GI, and especially back in 2009 when I first got here, it wasn't always well received. Like there were a lot of idiots in uniform doing idiot stuff. And I can say that because I was doing it.
Well, I hear what you're saying because when I got up here in 2015, I'd never hunted big game. And now I'm 37, 38 years old, just wanting to get into hunting.
Yeah.
And not knowing about Alaska hunters and how secretive they are. And I would go up to, people that I met that I knew hunted and say, hey, can I just go with you just to be there, just to experience it?
Sure, yeah.
And I know now, I didn't realize this then, but just getting out with someone gives you that confidence, Bill, to go out and do it yourself.
Yes.
And then that confidence just builds and builds and builds.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
But it was probably a year and a half before I got to actually go out with anybody.
oh yeah. Yeah, no, it's hard. And you know, and when you're young, especially, I mean, when you're living in the barracks, you know, I mean, when I first moved up here, I was living in 1001, which for anybody that's on Wainwright in those barracks, they know what that means, before the remodel. But it was just literally a concrete room with a couple of guys in it. And like, it was a whole 4-story complex of just concrete room after 19 stall bathroom and more concrete rooms.
It's easy to get into a negative mental state.
Yeah.
For sure, if you don't get out. And along those lines, a couple buddies of mine and I, we take, well, not just veterans, but new hunters out. And just for that same thing, I want to give back because I didn't necessarily get that right away.
Yeah.
So I want to give that back to maybe somebody that is new to hunting.
100%.
I'm not a professional, but you know, I know a little bit more than I did 9 years ago.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, and like you said, just going out with somebody that's been there and done that before, even like with this 40-mile hunt we just talked about, you know, if you can go up there on your own, you know, that's one way to experience it, and you will learn, and you'll learn the hard lessons, and you'll figure out what you're doing. But like to go with somebody, even on a hunt that simple, it can be huge.
It's huge for the psyche.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Huge.
Because I know when I moved, like I said, I hadn't hunted, and now I'm in this wide world of Alaska. Probably, you know, a little fearful of just going out and trying it myself.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, and especially being, you know, I mean, I guess you grew partially in Wyoming, but I would say where I grew up, there were no grizzly bears. You know,
Well, I'd never even hunted or was out in the woods much at all.
Yeah.
My family didn't hunt, didn't trap.
So talk a little bit about that. So you were in your mid to late 30s. What gave you the bug? What kicked off your interest in that?
That show Mountain Men on History Channel.
Just seeing people.
Just over the years of watching that.
Yeah.
When we first moved up here and I finally got to hunt with somebody, I got my first caribou and I wanted to try brain tanning it. So I built a 2x4 stretcher and laced it up in there. Just, you know, I was going to brain tan the sucker, and it turned out awesome.
Nice.
And that's when I was hooked.
Yeah.
Just trying something new and just the meditative process of skinning and fleshing and tanning just into a beautiful garment is really cool.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. There's a reason we say, you know, the work starts after you shoot.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And you got to enjoy that process too.
Yeah.
And it really is. There's
If
a
you don't
beauty to
enjoy it, then you'll never do it again.
Yeah, exactly. Especially on a moose. Good night.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't try my first tan job on a moose because
Right.
I had a client ask me not long ago if I would ever full body skin a moose for a life-size mount, and I said, find a different guide. I am not your man.
That's a big tip.
I am not doing that, buddy. Shoulder mounts, sure, but no, I'm not doing a full body moose. No way.
No, we saved my buddy's moose hide off of his.
Yeah.
We brought it home. Yeah, that was a big hide.
I think it'd be
Good
one thing
night.
to just save the hide, but to dorsal cut it and life-size skin it and make all those precise cuts and then move the legs in the way that you'd have to move them.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way.
Yeah, no, ours was definitely, it was not a precise
Yeah.
process. It was, once it was gutted, we were just like, you know what? Yeah. And he's like, you know, I know a lady in town who can do some stuff with it and,
Yeah.
you know, sew it and whatnot. And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, we'll keep it.
You can make a lot of loincloths out of a moose hide.
Oh, yes, you can. Well, it's really good. Like it actually, you know, for anybody that's interested in saving their moose hide this fall, you know, it's really good leather if you get it tanned out into leather. People, the natives have been making boots out of it, the winter boots out of it for, I mean, long time.
Yeah.
You know, a lot longer than we've lived here.
I'd imagine it's pretty thick.
It's not as thick as everybody makes it out to be.
Well,
It's very thick, but it's not like a lot of people are like, oh, it's unusable. It's like it's half inch thick. It's like, no, it is thick. Don't get me wrong.
After it's
I mean,
scraped down or
he
something.
would know best of anybody, but
see, the thing of it is if you're going to home tan a moose,
Yeah.
do it yourself, it would be very difficult because the skin would stay thick.
Mhm.
When you send it to a tannery, they shave that down to where, I mean, we're talking centimeters,
Yeah.
and
okay.
it's soft as a, you know,
yeah,
ball of cotton.
yep.
Huh.
And I'm assuming there's a similar process, but they're doing out in the village, you know, because
Yeah.
I mean, that's Gary up in Venati.
Yeah.
You know, the last time I was up at his house, he had a whole moose pinned on the side of his cabin.
Oh,
I think
really?
he brain tans, doesn't he?
I think he does. Yeah.
So when
Yep.
you brain tan, that is a really, really good product. The brains. and it really makes them soft.
Really?
So even if you have thick skin, if you get a brain tan properly, it'll be softer than, say, a synthetic tan.
Really?
Absolutely. Now, I wouldn't promote brain tanning something that's going to get mounted, because it doesn't quite have that shelf. And
Okay.
I don't think any taxidermist I know would take a brain tan critter to mount. But
Okay.
yeah, brain tanning is supreme.
Have you brain tanned many bears?
No. I started out brain tan. I did a couple caribou, a couple fox, and then from that point, I just tried other methods of tanning.
Yeah.
A lot of the paint on tans and the stuff like that. But I tried different products from taxidermy supply companies, and of course the orange bottle, the deer hide hunter's deer. Everybody's done that one. I think
that with rabbits.
Yeah, I was the same.
No, that one works good for small fur bears.
Yeah, it works fine.
It really does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my buddy and I, we used to raise meat rabbits, and so we'd have 100 of them at a time, and then especially if you miss your culling weekend, and you have to say. Because they're breeding.
100 turns into 250.
Oh, do it. And then they're breeding every month. And, it only takes another month for them to be old enough to make meat and slaughter for, they grow quick, 2 months max, and you're killing those things to put them in the freezer. And so if you miss, and we had, good night, probably 10 breeding trios going at one time. So the genetics didn't get too mixed. So you take two females and a male, and you just kind of rotate. Around and around.
I was going to ask if you could flesh out that definition there.
Yeah. Okay. And so we had, several trios going all at the same time. So several litters. And oh man, there was, we had 100 to do in one weekend. It was interesting, but but no, that stuff, it works good on rabbits. Yeah. That's been the most experience I have in any kind of tanning.
Yeah.
That's why you're here.
So that first kill was a caribou that you said when you came up here?
Yep.
Okay. Bow or gun?
Gun.
Okay.
Unit 13.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Back in the good old days.
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, my buddy had talked, the guy I told you that took me out for the first time. We went hunting with him for years after that, moose hunting down in that area, and got that caribou and just tried it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just fell in love with it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's a really cool thing for somebody to take you out like that and show you around, because that's what I think most people up here are really hungry for when they first move here.
Yeah.
It's one thing to go out and just try it yourself, right? But when you have no history of, shooting longer ranges or knowing what a bullet does when it hits an animal, maybe the closest thing you've seen to an instructional on where to shoot a caribou is a YouTube video.
Right. Right.
Can you do it? Yes. But I think you put it perfectly. It's great for the psyche to be able to be there with somebody.
Yeah.
Have somebody experience say, yes, take the shot.
Yeah.
I
have kind of a question on that. So you said that your first caribou that you brain tanned that one, and then going on from there, you experimented with different ways of tanning. The skinning process and tanning different ways and trying different things. Did you go to any other local tanneries or taxidermists and kind of shadow them and kind of learn different ways from them to try to augment your learning process? Or was this just all one animal at a time that you killed?
Initially, for the first year and a half, I was pretty much on my own. Not saying that anybody wouldn't have helped me if had I asked.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
But I just didn't know of anybody. And, I just kind of trial by error.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Really.
Yeah. How many animals would you say you did before you started actually mirroring
The process that I do now versus then? Within 2 years, I probably did maybe, 20, 30 hides. Nothing outrageous, but it was a lot of fur bears. And I would do it. Those 2 years, I did stuff for free for people.
Yeah.
Just to practice. And I was up front with them. Hey, I'm just learning this. I'll do your hide for free.
Yeah.
And it obviously is good for them.
Right.
Kind of, because I wasn't that great at tanning then. But it worked out great for me, especially because I got that practice.
Right.
What to do, what not to do. And then kind of get rolling right into how I got this tannery going. I was at an ATA meeting one time, Alaska Trappers Association. And that was something else I got into right away.
Yeah.
I got into the ATA, became a member. They have their monthly meetings, a wealth of knowledge out there.
Absolutely.
the president at the time had some announcements at the beginning, and he said, "Hey, so and so needs some help on the trap line. He's getting older, physical limitations and stuff like that."
Mm-hmm.
My hand shot up through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
Put me on there. So I got hooked up with that guy and trapped with him for the next 3 years.
Oh, perfect.
So I did learn some fur handling from him. But another guy that I met in the ATA, he took me aside one time. He's like, "Man, you got to meet somebody." I said, "Okay." So we went over to this guy's house, and just by chance, meeting him, Kevin Thrasher at Back to Life Alaska.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
And he used to have a tannery. I don't know if you guys know that, but he used to have a tannery in
Yes.
Fairbanks.
I did know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. A
So
lot
he-
of people use them.
So so he had all of his equipment there. We started rapping about tanning and how excited I was about it. And he's like, "Cool, I got everything for you." He came to my shop several times, which is in my garage, and just showed me the way of tanning like I do now, which is a static tan. Everything's soaking.
Okay.
And that's
yeah.
typically what most of the tanneries do.
Yep.
Because you would never make a living just by brain tanning stuff. I don't
Right.
think.
Oh,
Right.
sure.
Not
yeah.
you wouldn't put out the quantity that we put out as a tannery when you're soaking like that.
Mm-hmm.
So he taught me all that stuff, and pretty much just kind of left me on my own. Not like that, but he
Sure,
just let
yeah,
me
right.
figure some stuff out.
Yeah.
Sure.
He would come over and help me from time to time. And I would say the biggest learning curve was using the shaving machine. It's
Mhm.
basically a round knife, 11 and a half inches wide. And that's what you shave the skins down with. You shave either
Mm.
membrane off or you shave the skin thinner,
Yeah.
like on the moose, like we were talking about.
Yeah.
So that was probably the biggest learning curve I had.
What is that shaver wheel made out of?
You can get a couple different kinds of blades, a softer metal and a hard metal.
Okay.
Okay. yeah.
When I started out, I used the softer metals because it's easier to tune up.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because
I
you got to keep
imagine.
that thing sharp, of course.
Okay.
It's got guards on it and
Mhm.
little 2.5 horsepower motor.
Huh.
So it's nothing major.
Okay.
And it stands on my desk, and I just stand up and do it.
Okay.
But
Huh.
that was probably the biggest thing. And he would come over and show me how to do
Mhm.
things. Then I'd do it, and then he'd start bringing me capes, and I'd start doing those. And I do not the bulk of his tanning, but I do the majority of it,
Mm.
as well as some other taxidermists in town I tan for.
Awesome. Awesome.
So yeah, he got me started in this method, and it just kind of skyrocketed from there.
And
Wow.
did you know you wanted to make it into like a business kind of thing? Like
Not initially.
not initially.
Not
Yeah.
initially, probably like year or two when I was starting to get really into it. And I was thinking about quitting my job because I'd retired from the Army in 2017.
Mm.
And I went out to work as a safety manager for one of the airlines out at the airport.
Mm.
And I had enough of that job, and my tanning was getting better and I was enjoying it more. I had my shop set up.
Mm.
And that was when I kind of decided I'm going to do this.
You're kind of showing up to the airport, kind of stinking like hide. People were complaining. And,
No, nothing really stinks in my shop.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, not quite like Tim's shop.
yeah. I did have, I think what really pushed me was I had that military retirement there,
Sure. Yeah.
the VA there, just in case,
Right.
because it was going to be a big step. 'Cause my
Yeah.
wife didn't work at the time,
right.
and I went ahead and by the way, if you want to get a business going and you're a veteran, really good in Alaska,
Yeah.
really good. So I got
Yeah.
my business license and started gaining more knowledge, more equipment, more clients. We
Mhm.
have over 35 regular clients, meaning they've been with us for more than 2 years in a row,
Nice.
and then a plethora, other people.
Mm-hmm.
So
And kind of break down like what all you do at Morris Custom Hides. So, because you said you've done moose, thinning down moose. You've done caribou, obviously.
Yep.
But you do a lot of small game for the trappers, right?
absolutely.
And then you had one other thing you wanted to mention. Told me to remind you of.
Oh, yes, it's starting this year. It's new. I'm teaming up with Kevin Thrasher at Back to Life Alaska.
Mhm.
We're going to start dipping velvet antlers to preserve them. Beforehand, Al used to do them out there at the tannery, but we thought we'd give it a go. And
Mm.
I went and picked up the methanol the other day, so we're ready to rock and roll here shortly.
Right.
Nice.
On.
Yeah, so that'd be another option or the only option I know of around here
Mm.
to get that velvet preserved.
Yeah. No, that's a great thing because there's a lot of those earlier hunts. I mean, I
Oh,
know
yeah.
you guys were shooting deer in velvet down in the fall. Caribou you can get in velvet.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of people ruin it, bang it up on the way out.
Yeah, you got to be careful with that stuff.
Yeah. What would your tips from this side of the table for sure? Because I mean, I know you with several clients, I'm sure probably shoot animals in velvet
a lot.
Yeah. So I mean, what tips would you give people before they bring you something in velvet to do?
Well, I would say the primary thing is keeping it cool.
Yeah.
Because it's just like skin and meat, basically.
Yeah.
It's gonna, if you don't, just like a flat skin, if you don't get all that meat and fat off there, it's gonna start breeding bacteria, which could cause damage.
Yeah.
So just keeping it cool would be, the top tip.
Yeah. Keep it out of the direct sunlight.
Yeah.
That really accelerates the rotting process. Out guiding when I've had caribou that people want to preserve the velvet on, if I don't have some kind of a spray on preservative, which I'm not sure how you feel about some of those. I know there's a lot of companies that advertise for spray on, like a formaldehyde temporary velvet preserver.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of products out there. I don't have the expertise and knowledge to really comment on that one.
I will give one word of warning is when we had Tim Jensen on from Hanging Dead, beetling. The warning he gave is if you plan on beetling that skull, do not use that spray on.
Oh, really?
Because it'll kill his beetles. So he can't put it in the tank.
I see.
And even if it's just normally, if you bring him one in velvet, he'll remove the antlers before putting the skull in the tank because they'll eat the velveted antlers.
Right.
But even with removing the antlers, it's just the chance of that spray having been on the skull.
Right.
He can't take the risk of it killing his beetles. So just a word of warning when using a product like that, if that's your plan. Boiling, I'm sure would be fine. I don't know if you'd want to boil something with velvet on it though.
Yeah, I mean, you could steam it in a bag, do just a skull bag steam.
I've seen people use carpet cleaners.
Okay, yeah.
The steam in a bag. Or the professional, the ones at the laundromats that they use.
Right.
Take it to the laundromat.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I think the only thing I've really done is just set it on the shady side of the tent. If you're up in high country, I just set it behind the tent and try to keep it in the shade. I've taken extra game bags before if I've got a problem with like flies, and I've actually wrapped what I can around some of the susceptible parts of the velvet where the flies are trying to attack it, and just to keep the flies off of it. But yeah, it's only so much you can do in the field, but trying to get it out fast is the best thing. But
fast, cool.
Yeah, we're just so we're starting that this year, and I've done every land mammal in Alaska.
Nice.
And actually, we've had a couple people send stuff up from the lower 48, so I've been able to tan mountain lions,
have you really?
Bobcats, and a couple badgers. I think it's just the nostalgia of having something tanned in North Pole, Alaska. But some of my followers have sent stuff up.
Do you send them like a certified like an certificate of authenticity?
No, I should from the Santa Claus outfit.
You should.
Yeah. Send them a little snow globe
tanned in the real North Pole.
You should get snow globes made with like skulls in them, like animal skulls.
Oh, that would be really cool.
Yeah, wouldn't it though? I want royalties on that.
I'm going to write that one down. Yeah.
We just sell them on the Northern Hunter website.
Hey. We'll team up. There we go.
The Northern Hunter snow globe.
Everybody eats.
What a bunch of pansies those guys are.
So how big? You can do up to caribou, I'm assuming, in your vat?
I can do anything.
Anything?
Yep.
Perfect.
And the only restriction I had for the last couple of years was the size of my tumbler. The tumbler is basically, it's a round drum that spins and softens the skins up and cleans the skins up. The tumbler that I had, or I still have it, it was a 4-foot tumbler. And it just wouldn't take a moose.
Yeah.
I could do cows. But a big bull coming out of the Yukon,
right?
I would just say no, can't take it. I've since built an 8-foot tumbler.
Ooh.
So I'm just getting the motor put on it next week, and we should be rocking and rolling once I skin it out.
Nice.
Yeah. So then I will be able to do moose more. But I've done a lot of calf moose, a lot of cows. But we can do everything. I do a ton of bison.
Oh,
I was actually shocked how many bison come through.
Really?
Yeah.
That kind of makes sense, I guess.
Because anybody that shoots a bison wants to keep that high.
Oh yeah, I mean, you're not leaving that.
Every time I'm at your shop, I just see bison. I've noticed that it's like there's bison every time I'm there.
Bison capes, bison back skins.
Yeah.
Have you done elk from up here?
I have not done an elk. Yeah, I've not done an elk. So I haven't done every land mammal in Alaska.
Yeah.
Polar
Yeah.
bear?
Raspberry.
I cannot do polar bears because they're marine mammals.
Yeah. Protected act.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I didn't.
I get tons of questions
realize
about
that.
seals, of course. Just
Mhm.
can't do those.
Yeah. Yeah. It's even like the weird thing with polar bears is like it's so Canada you can go shoot them.
Yep.
You cannot import them back here
Yeah.
Right
so
now.
right now.
And
yeah,
the same
way it
thing
is.
with elephants
Yeah.
right
That
now.
goes back. The
Uh,
elephants thing goes back and forth
lions
Yeah.
too.
every 4 years. straight.
Lions?
Lions. Yeah.
No
Can't
way.
import lions now. At least as of the time that I went over there.
Really?
Yeah.
Isn't
Yeah.
that
There
ridiculous?
was a big warning about that.
Wow.
Yeah.
How
Yeah, I've been
liberal.
I mean, I guess if you
I've been
take it
asked
to
to
the
do polar
southern
bears
border, you can
quite
get
a bit.
anything through. But
Yeah, just walk it in through Mexico.
I was just going to say denounce your citizenship and just come back up and just get all the perks.
Oh boy.
anyways,
Not to get off on that.
Straight to jail.
straight to yes, yeah, right to jail.
And you have the perfect last name for that too, huh? Chris Perez?
Yeah. I think I can do it.
Yeah.
You could pull it off.
There you go.
There's a lot I could say right now, but we're a family friendly.
Save it for the campfire.
Yeah.
There we go.
That might not even be the spot the way I get going.
So real quickly before we skip on, so you've said what you do and everything like that. We'll have you plug it at the end of the show too. But how can people get a hold of you if they're local and want something done?
Yeah,
or-
the only platform I have as far as social media goes is a Facebook page.
Okay.
Morris Custom Hides. Custom Hides, all one word.
Okay.
Several followers on there, and I'm constantly giving out my phone number.
Mhm.
Got business cards and whatnot. So,
Perfect.
and we get a lot of word of mouth. It pretty much is how we get most of our business. I would say 95% of our business.
That's a
Which
lot
is-
of small business here in Alaska.
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah, and it's good. So,
Good. So anybody that's listening, yeah, go follow their Facebook page and yeah, bring your hides in. So, so I wanted to ask you a little bit about the preemptive side of things before things get to you.
the most important side.
Yeah, I was gonna say the part you can't control.
Yeah, but sometimes suffer from.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So starting off, what would you say from the tanning side of things? I know when I was in Africa, there was different methods of skinning depending on what kind of mount we wanted for any of our animals, right? So when we told them, oh, we want to shoulder mount this impala, then they would skin it, and make their cuts and everything like that. They would keep the back skin from the hind legs and everything like that. But what considerations would you say for people when they're skinning something out, depending on like what they want you to do with it? Like if they're wanting to make like clothing out of the caribou hide or a wall hanger for a bear or something like that. Like what are some things you've noticed people doing or not doing or things they should do?
Yeah, well, the first thing I'll say on that is if you're going hunting and you even think about you might want to mount it, talk to a taxidermist.
Yeah.
Because they will, or look online. There's plenty of resources out there to show you what cuts to make and depending on what you're going to do with it.
Mhm.
If you're just going to, throw it over the banister or hang it on the wall, it doesn't really matter how you cut it.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
The primary thing is getting that skin prepped for either shipment or storage or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't really necessarily matter too much how you cut it. It matters how well you flesh it. Get that
Gotcha.
meat and fat off. You always want to get you don't want more than a 1/4 inch of salt or meat or fat on there
Mhm.
on any hide.
That's a golden rule. Yeah.
It's kind of I've always heard that. I always preach that.
Mm-hmm.
And you never want to salt anything unless you fleshed it.
Yeah.
Or especially if you're going to take it to a taxidermist.
Absolutely.
They don't like that.
Mm.
So as a tanner, I like to have salt dried.
Mm.
But as a taxidermist, probably not. And I'll never go down that road. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
but you always kind of want to have an idea of what you're going to do with that hide before you go.
Mhm.
But taxidermists can do some pretty cool stuff. They're artists.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even if you mess up the cuts, you might pay a little extra, but they'll fix it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or a lot extra.
Most times
Yeah.
they'll fix it.
Yeah. Well, and this time of year, especially, when you're bear hunting in the spring, and we're over baits or even spot and stalk or something like that. Obviously there's like coastal camps like you go to in the spring, but a lot of times you're within a, several hour to a day trip to the house.
Mhm.
you down an animal, you've got some time to make it happen or to get it back to where you can work on it properly. But fall time, a lot of guys are going out for 10-day trips.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes not in areas you can easily get from.
Yeah.
You're getting dropped off by a plane or floating or any of those methods where you're not just a wheeler and a truck ride back to the house, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of high risk. I mean, with getting a hideout, like let's say
absolutely.
if you're out there for 10 days and you shoot one on day one.
Yeah.
I've got a perfect story for that.
Boy, we love
I
stories.
had a client bring in a 9'8" grizzly.
Woo.
And he brought it into the shop. We set it out on the table and looking at it and talking about it. He was telling me about the hunt. He got that sucker on day one of a 10-day hunt.
Man.
And we're talking one of the islands south of Kodiak. He spent a better part of, I think, 5 hours, he said, in camp, turning, splitting, fleshing. That bear turned out phenomenal.
Did it.
So obviously I know that most times you're not going to be able to take salt out to the field.
Right.
I get that. It's the weight, it's everything.
Right.
But if you can get that sucker fleshed out properly, turn, split to the best of your abilities, and keep it cool and dry, then you should be good to go.
Yeah.
And bears are pretty sturdy, though. I've noticed over the years.
Yeah. They
They're
can be.
They're pretty sturdy.
So while we're talking about bears, for having shipped a lot of bear hides out of state, typically salt them and then you hang that thing up and you get it as dry as you possibly can to roll it up.
Yep.
And shove it in a box and send it south because you want it completely dry. Coming to you, would you prefer it completely dried out after salted? Hang it up and to where it's just air dry. It's all not just salted but also air dried, or does it matter?
It depends on how busy I am at the time. Because a lot of times, like this year in particular, this bear season, I took in probably 15 bears to flesh. And typically I may not have time to do that. So I will request them salt dried.
Okay.
I won't take them unless they're salt dried, unless I can pretty much get them right in the mix.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's probably, is that something they should check in with you basically? Like, obviously they're going to call you before they bring you anything, but that might change year to year, season to season, something like that.
Well, as time's gone on and we've talked to more and more folks, people will start calling me before they go hunting. Say, hey, I want to, do this or that. What should I do? What should I not do?
Yeah. Do you ever hire seasonal knife workers just to help? Like,
I've never had any traditional employees because I don't really necessarily want to go down that route.
Right.
I do have my oldest son worked with me for 2 years, and he got to the point where he could do everything I could do, even the shaving. And then he went off to college, and I now have my youngest son in there, 17. He's learning the skinning and the fleshing and the stuff like that, the basic stuff.
Right on.
But what I also do, I've done it once. I'm going to continue to do this. The Army has a program called the Career Skills Program, something along those lines, where when a soldier's transitioning out, airman, whatever it is, when they're transitioning out of the military, they go through a class and they'll have tradesmen come in and say, hey, would you like to try this trade since you're transitioning? Maybe you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I had a kid, you guys know him, Sawyer, Austin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Yeah, he worked with me for 2.5 months on that program.
Awesome.
And it was phenomenal because, he's an awesome guy anyway.
Yeah, no.
But just having that extra help in there. And you don't even necessarily have to have a lot of experience because I can put you on brushing furs, vacuuming furs, as we're learning the processes that I'm doing.
Yeah.
And then if you don't have any skinning knowledge, we'll start with things of mine and we'll do those. And you just learn that way. And then wherever they go from there, it doesn't, it doesn't really matter to me, but they've got that experience now.
Right.
And I always tell young kids, I especially tell mine, build your skill sets.
Yeah.
Because if you plan on one trade for the rest of your life to earn a living, you might be in trouble.
Yeah.
So try different things, learn different things.
Today, I grew up cutting wood with my dad. He burns wood for heating the house. And my boss was like, hey, there's a tree over there I want to cut up. Throw it over my fence. I just bought a cabin. I want to take this wood out to the cabin. Well, so he gets his chainsaw. It's typical. When my boss hands you a chainsaw, don't expect it to be ready. I try to use it and it's dull as can be. And I realized my chainsaw was in the back of my truck, so I got it out. But I spent half an hour messing with both of them. Right, I went and found a chainsaw file because I grew up doing that. Like you say, the skills.
Yeah.
That at the time I didn't really enjoy. I mean, running a chainsaw can be fun, but once you've done it a while, it gets old.
Yeah.
And but like you say, yeah, same thing.
Yeah, jack of all trades.
Yeah, multiple skill sets.
Especially in Alaska.
Yeah.
Especially in Alaska.
Well, and even for your normal career, I mean, and I'll say this to a lot of the GIs that are about to get out, if you're approaching your ETS, it's not going to go how you think it's going to go.
Usually the grass is not greener.
Yeah, it's not going to go, according to plan every time. Now you can make plans happen. You can work hard and get things to go, but like sometimes, like I know they're always having those like job fair type things, right when you're getting ready to get out.
Yeah,
there's a reason the joke about the IBEW is I'm broke every winter. Because
it's kind of true,
and I did wire work for a long time. I'm a telecom guy now, but and it's good money. It is, but you got to be ready for that. You got to be ready, especially somewhere like here in Alaska, where it gets -60, it gets -50. Job sites might shut down for 2 months.
Yeah,
there's just no way to keep a building warm for that long if you don't have all the plumbing done.
Yeah, I always told my soldiers when you're getting out, have plan A, B, C, and D.
Yep. Yeah.
That's good advice. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
yeah, talking about the CSP stuff, the career transition program. I just talked with the lady over there yesterday, so I'm going to start going to their briefings every Wednesday.
Okay. Oh, awesome!
So just kind of give them an option.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great.
Excellent.
Well, that's a wonderful way to spend some time over there. And honestly, I mean, because I know Sawyer for sure. I mean, I think he's planning to do a lot of his own skinning.
yeah. I call him from time to time to.
And no, he's a great guy.
He's an awesome dude. He's super patient. Him and Rob. Well, Rob's taught me a lot about skinning over the years. I've spent a lot of time over at Rob's house. But the good guys to get with to brush skills up for sure.
Mm-hmm. So kind of to keep this cycled kind of to the little bit back to the field thing. You pointed out, a lot about skinning and whatnot. What tips would you give people for when they're in the field to be able to keep it fleshed properly? What kind of knives would you recommend people carry on them? Mm-hmm. And then, because I know for me, I like to have at least 3 knives on me. And, sometimes I can't have quite that many, but, keeping a sharpener. Chris and I were talking about this earlier this spring, but, something that's not the hardest steel you can get, something you can tune up pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So in your experience and dealing with, I mean, you see, I'm sure every style coming back to you because you're kind of the funnel point, right?
yeah. It's I've seen a lot.
yeah.
But that's the other reason. I'm glad to be on this show, and I'm always putting out information of how we can all get better together. Because if you give me a good product, I'm going to give you a good product.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I would say probably the biggest thing is, like we've already talked about, getting that meat and fat off there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can salt it. Avoid plastic bags. Avoid plastic bags.
Holds that moisture in.
Anything that you want that skin or that hide, whatever, in a bag that breathes.
Right.
Burlap sack, game bag, feed sack, something like that, something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
What happens in the airtight, container of a plastic bag is that bacteria expedites.
Yeah.
It grows exponentially. And that's what causes hair slippage, which is pretty much the only irreversible thing.
Yeah.
As far as a tannery goes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or even taxidermy, because they can fix a lot of things, but they can't fix bald spots.
Yeah.
Generally. You can. I have learned a few tricks in the past.
They don't have the hair plug technology.
No Rogaine for critters.
I was just going to mention Rogaine.
Hey, Rob, can you kind of break down? So you see a lot of people, like customers, I've been around with you to explain this, but so people give you something and then hair slips, and that's their doing, not your doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, because people are always going like, oh, I sent this to my my tannery, and I got this back. And I'm like, well, that doesn't really happen there. This
is going to be a big one here.
I figured it'd be a good one.
So I'll tell you this: if you ever plan on tanning, especially as a business, you need to have thick skin. Or grow some thick skin.
Yeah.
And understand where your role is. All you can do is provide information. When a skin comes in that hasn't been properly maintained, you're not going to see slipping until I start soaking it.
Yeah.
Right.
Generally, if I have seen things slip just outside, but you're generally not going to see that. So the client, when they bring something in, they think they've done a good job, which, maybe they did. Maybe they didn't. We'll find out later.
Right.
So, but when they bring that in, and I have had clients though that say, "Hey, I messed this up. It might not work." I said, "Well, let's just give it a try. I'll start it in the process, and if I find that it's slipping, we do this with caribou skins all the time. If I see it slipping, I'll call you and we'll stop the process if you want to stop. That way, you're not paying more money when I could have stopped that initially.
Sure. Yeah.
That's just bad business and bad ethics right there.
It's actually an awesome thing to do that you call them.
Yeah, and that's another thing that, a lot of personability having a local tannery.
Yeah.
Anybody can call me anytime they want, message me anytime they want, questions, clients, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Only a handful of times, I would say, over the years, I've had an irate client that's their hair has slipped and they can't take ownership. And what am I going to do?
Right.
I don't know what to tell you,
yeah, that's not your part of the process.
Being as professional as possible, we talk about hide preparation techniques, things like that. But this kind of stuff happens in all the tanneries. It doesn't matter if it's mink and moil or those other big tanneries in lower 48, tanneries in Anchorage. The more tanners I talk to over the years, the more I realize that this is just, it just happens.
Yeah.
You may have thought you took real good care of that, but the bacteria slipped in and it started slipping hair. I've heard tons of stories from clients that have used other tanneries, and it just kind of, it's a big risk getting stuff tanned anyway.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, and I think probably the best way to ward against that is, like you said, just flesh the crap out of it. Because if there's nothing in there for it to fester in, even that 1/4 inch of meat, I would say from the hides I've done, I don't play by that rule. I'm like 16th of an inch.
Yeah.
Like I try, and you actually have one of my wife's bear hide right now.
Yeah,
So
they're
this
grizz.
is kind of your little black bear color face.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
But might be your chance to publicly flog me for if I did anything wrong. But
well, hold on, I'll pull out my list here.
Right. But no, we got that one spot and stalk.
I heard about that on the podcast.
Yeah, and that was day one of like a 4-day hunt.
Okay.
So I had, and it was not cool during that time. It was a very hot time. It was later in the season.
And you got it off the animal right away?
Yep, got it off the animal right away. And we preserved it for that night. By the time I got done with it, it was 2 a.m, 3 a.m. And we got it put up for the night, just in as cool a spot as we could with airflow over it, keeping it out of moisture, making sure there was some airflow. And that whole next day, all I did was flesh that bear.
Yeah.
And just make sure all that meat was off there, all the gristle, all the everything.
There's definitely nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah.
Just something that came to mind was wolves and wolverine. A lot of times their saddle area won't get fleshed out, and that fat underneath there, that fat layer, just breeds it.
Belly fat.
Yeah. So that's an important one too on fur bears.
I know we've done you and I have done some late season calling rub in the past, and you get some critters and just get right into them because it's so warm out.
Yeah.
And you're not really worried about all the rest of it, but like green belly and stuff. And then some of that setting in, and you've got me going on that where it's like, used to go like hang stuff. Now I'm like right into it because
that's it. You got to get right on
it. And green belly's
Mm.
so nasty too. Anyway, just the smell of green belly when you're skinning something is just so
it's
gross.
Not good for the fur either.
Yeah. Could you talk a little bit about that for someone who might not understand what that is?
For green belly?
Yeah, because I think that's kind of a misunderstood kind of thing. And I think a lot of people think that usually constitutes hair loss, and it doesn't always.
No, not at all. And I've seen some really, really gnarly stuff come in, and it didn't slip. It's just kind of one of those things.
Just some of like the whole green belly thing. A lot of people don't really understand what that means.
Okay. Well, from what I understand about green belly, it's basically the guts just rotting.
Right.
And it protrudes through the skin. Worse on coyotes, wolves for sure, the real carnivorous ones. But if And I know guys that leave the saddle on as well, but I just wouldn't recommend it. So.
Yeah, I've seen it trapping. If you leave them, you set a trap out and you leave them, and especially if it's a little bit warmer, they don't freeze. They freeze from the outside in, but they have fur keeping them warm.
Mm-hmm.
So the guts will start to slip a little bit, and you'll get green belly that way.
Yeah, and it could cause the hair to slip, but not every time.
Yeah. It's not usually something I've seen cause hair to slip, but that's usually when I've seen green belly personally is an animal that didn't freeze quickly when it was trapped.
Yeah. Well, when you're talking about freezing, I'd like to throw out something. Avoid freezing anything with bones in it.
Yes.
Because that will expedite the growth of bacteria as well. But not only that, but if you put it in a freezer, like you just said, the fur and the skin keeps it warm, so that inside may not freeze for a day or two.
Yeah.
So just be mindful of that.
And you and I, Chris, we battled that with that beaver for this spring, where I froze it because we weren't able to get to it immediately for the fleshing process. And I thought in my head, and I was like, oh, that's a great way to do it. And it was, don't get me wrong.
If you freeze them flat, it's a lot better too, because then you have the ability, once they kind of get a little limber again and they start to thaw, you already have them in that flat shape that you can start pecking away at them, as opposed to having them like skin to skin and then having them,
Yeah.
That makes fleshing a little easier too if you throw it in the freezer for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Or use salt as you're fleshing.
It was amazing how the insulation value of that fat it took forever for that thing to thaw out. Forever.
I've seen a lot of buddies. Oh, sorry, James.
Well, I was just going to say, to the point we were worried about, slippage and spoilage on one part of it, while the other part was still, thawing itself out. And so it was a little bit of a struggle that day.
You should give that to Rob. Probably time for that.
I'm probably just going to throw everything to him, honestly.
So, I
got a stack of stuff for you.
Right on.
Something you and I talked about years ago, Rob, that's kind of just worth pointing out, is you see a lot of guys they'll kill something when it's a little warmer, and the guts are starting to already go. As soon as you kill something, especially, and this is the difference in, say, trapping and dispatching something and going home, or you got something frozen in snares at 40 below, but you start getting green belly, you freeze it, it's still, that green belly is still progressing while it's freezing.
It's not freezing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is you can't get into skinning that animal until it's in a soft enough, thawed enough state to manage it. So while it's thawing, that green belly's accelerating even more. And I've encountered that before with stuff that I brought to you where I'm like, why is this so bad, Rob? And you're like, well, you got two things going on here.
Come here, bud.
Yeah, come here.
Another mistake a lot of guys make, bear hides, fur bears especially, is say they get it home, they skin it right away, and then they wrap it up in a ball and throw it in the freezer.
Mm-hmm.
And then the inside of that hide, once again, what does that hair do? It insulates. The inside of that hide will slip. And at that point, you're probably going to have...
Yeah, and then I've seen a lot of people put that same hide in a plastic bag, tie it up,
and then
because they don't want it in their freezer, and that just, like we talked about.
Right.
Yeah.
So a couple of questions then about ears and then fleshing. I was always told that salt will penetrate 1/8 of an inch of meat, 1/16 of an inch of fat. Nothing more.
Is that a quarter total?
I've always heard a quarter total, between meat and fat.
Yeah,
it is the max.
Absolutely.
That's the absolute max.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is not to say that that's like the golden rule and that is the number, but that's just what I was told when I first started.
Mm-hmm.
And then from then on, I try to get everything down to the hair follicles, right? Like just down to that hide membrane, that there's no fat, there's no meat. I mean, there are times, especially like on lips, you always have a touch of meat on the lips, on the inside, as long as it's not too much.
You mean after you've split them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
After I flayed the lips open on a bear, just since we're talking about that, since I've done several of those this spring, you can kind of grid cut some of that meat. And then if it's just super, super thin, right? If it's enough that salt will penetrate it. And I've done a lot of bears like that. I never had any problems with slippage. But one of the things that I see guys doing is they'll leave a little bit of, it doesn't look like meat, and you can't really tell when you're skinning, just say the bear. It looks like you've clean skinned it. And then you bring it home, lay it back open, and you notice, I can't see the actual hide membrane. there's something covering it, and it's that little that little stretch film on there, if you will. It's just that little bit of membrane.
Stuff's kind of gnarly.
Yeah, and then you start fleshing it, and it doesn't flesh really easily because it's so soft and it wants to kind of move with the knife blade. And if you don't have a really sharp knife, which can be actually to your disadvantage, you'll cut holes in it if your fleshing knife is too sharp, or if you have the wrong surface to do it on. Then guys have a really hard time getting that membrane off. Does that impede the tanning process at all?
Nope. As long as you get big chunks of meat and fat off.
Okay.
Let's just do that.
Okay.
Big chunks of meat and fat off. It'll penetrate that membrane. The salt will.
Okay.
And you're talking about grid cuts. That's a really good point, especially on muzzle areas around the whisker buds.
Yes.
If you can't get in there with a knife, just grid cut that. Throw some salt in there.
Do you recommend folks to turn the eyelids on animals as well?
No.
Okay.
Oh, really?
I mean, it's personal preference, obviously.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there's tons of ways to skin a cat,
Sure.
Right.
But unless you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
If you want to get that thing mounted, I would just get it to a taxidermist as soon as you could.
Yeah.
Not salted.
Right.
Have them do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Have them do it.
Yeah. I was always taught to turn the eyelids, so I just do because I've already got it out at home anyway.
I've always been told ears, eyes, and lips.
Yeah.
I've never
If you're going to have that rugged,
And nose, yeah.
Yeah.
if you're going to have that rugged, you
cut it
want
close.
those eyelids turned because that's
Yes.
going to be material that's used in that mounting
Absolutely.
process. So like a
Absolutely.
taxidermist is going to want that turned and usable.
So then 2 more questions on the face. Do you like to see the nose split and then skinned out and, tightly skinned up to the front of the nose? Or do you not see a problem with just leaving it in one piece and then just skinning around the edges of it?
Well, as far as the nose goes, you can, anything really, you want to turn everything
Right.
out as far as it will go.
Right.
That bear nose will come out pretty far, and you
Yes.
can actually get it into where it's 2 different nostrils,
Yep.
and you're cleaning out the inside between
Yes.
and on top. So that's what would be best.
Is to split that cartilage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm just curious.
And then when you split that nose too, you have that deposit of fat under there when you
Yes.
split that nose
Yeah.
on bears too. That can rot.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
And the last thing is the ears. So this is one that I've heard guys go back and forth on it.
I know where you're going with
and
this.
you know where I'm going with this
Yeah.
too. When I was first doing bear hides, some people told me, don't turn the ears all the way to the tip. Other people said, turn them all the way to the end until you get all of that ear tissue exposed for salt. Well, someone I know that doesn't turn them all the way to the ends sent his first bear to a tannery. It was mink and moil, and I've used mink and moil a lot over the years. I've got a whole bag of stuff that's going to go to you now that I know that you're here. And this is kind of odd that I didn't even know that you existed in
A
this.
lot of
small-
people don't. It's kind of I consider myself a micro tannery.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna do my best to send you a lot of business.
That sounds good.
I love that.
Anyway, but this
On
guy,
micro.
That's the
you.
most millennial way to describe it.
It just sounds so cute.
For our millennial listeners.
Yeah.
so this guy didn't turn the ears all the way to the ends, sent him to the tannery, and then the tips of the ears slipped.
Sure, they did.
Okay, that just
Yeah, well,
confirms what I was
so-
going after there.
Yeah. Like I said, turn everything out.
Yeah,
I don't see, unless you have horrible knife skills, you need to turn everything out.
Yeah.
Because what a lot of people will do on the tips is they'll just start cutting holes.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
But talking about fur bears specifically, I get probably, it's a half and half. Some guys turn the ears, some guys don't. And I haven't really seen a big difference. Not every time they slip, not even a lot.
Huh.
So it's
think
it's a gamble.
Do you
really.
think that's like a size difference, like a square footage of area difference,
No.
like between big animals and small animals? Or?
No,
No.
I don't think so.
No.
If you're going to mount that, it's a bear for a taxidermist to turn that post in, and they're going to charge you for it
Mm.
because they've got to get molds in those ears.
They will turn those post-tan?
I know guys that will because
You
they have to
can.
rehydrate that hide to
Really?
put it on the mount.
If it's
Whoa.
if it's not turned enough, so typically I'll leave like a 16th a
Mm.
lot of times because what's even more of a pain because a 16th the taxidermist
That's
doesn't
nothing.
affect him. But if you do skin past and put a hole there, or you leave too thin a tissue and that tears a hole, that's way more work for a taxidermist to fix.
To split the end of that ear,
A
you
little
mean?
super glue.
if that end of that ear is split, it can cause a lot of issues when he's trying to mount that.
And I've been over to Kevin's plenty of times watching him mount stuff, and it's the same kind of deal where he's just fixing ear tips.
Yeah.
So leaving that, like I said, when I think I'm talking a 16th.
Yeah.
That's what I think, and I've done them both ways.
Everybody's got a preference,
right?
I mean, this is why I love this job that I'm doing. I mean, the tanning is awesome. I love the process, but just hanging out with hunters and trappers and hearing stories every day of the year is phenomenal.
Yeah.
So I hear it all. I hear it all. The plastic bag thing, I get some pushback on that sometimes. I've been putting stuff in plastic bags for 20 years. Well, you've been lucky.
Yeah.
It's kind of like not wearing your seatbelt when you're driving.
Right.
Eventually, you might get bit if you don't wear it, right? And along those lines too is don't assume everybody can prep a hide. I've got folks out there that have been trapping for 20, 30 years, and I'm like, really? This is what we're getting? So
they like the trapping aspect.
They like the trapping. The fur handling, not so much.
So fur bearers, you probably don't typically get those salted, right?
So the thing about salting fur bearers, actually this year I started a 5% discount on salt dried furs.
Oh, really?
Oh, cool.
I'm promoting salting,
Okay.
as you haven't noticed yet, right?
Yeah.
So I got a 5% discount on salt dried skins that don't already require salt dried, like bears or flat skins, capes. Those need to be salt dried before they come to me. But I started that discount, and I've noticed a lot more people salt drying. Salt is, in my opinion, by far superior when it comes to preservation. When I'm fleshing a hide, I'm salting it as I'm fleshing it. And then I salt it again. And then I hang it for 24 hours. Then I salt it again. But yeah, salt is key in that hide preparation. Now, I get a lot of air dried stuff too. Don't get me wrong.
Stretched and air dried.
We do stretched and air dried. And a lot of folks, I'm finding, they don't know. They ask me like, well, how do I salt dry? And my initial thought is like, what do you mean? How do you salt dry? But then I'm thinking, well, they've air dried stuff on boards for so many years to send to auction or whatever, or the tannery.
Yeah.
Said just flush it and salt it. Put it on your beam. Put it on. If you want to board it, that's fine. Just salt it and wait. And it's got to be dry.
Yeah.
I don't take air dried beavers anymore. That's another thing I started this year.
Okay.
I've found over the years that I spend a lot of time on beavers that weren't properly fleshed. And then they're air dried, and they may stick around for a year or two, and that meat, and then we'll get what's called grease burn. That grease permeates through the skin.
Okay, yeah.
And it's a nightmare if it even turns out.
Gotcha.
So I don't take air dried beaver anymore. I will take air dried furs, but not beaver.
Yeah.
Especially on like a really prime beaver when they're like, they have a lot of that hide oil. Ooh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Man, oh man. Yeah, that's I could see how that could cause problems with a fatty animal like that. Because that's the one when you and I were getting that one down to the hair follicles. That's you kept warning me about that. And telling me horror stories that you've had, or that you've known of over the years.
As far as like what?
Beaver slippage being a big thing.
Hey, Rob, can you, since James is bringing that up, can you talk a little bit about in the process, this kind of is a good point to drop this, if that's okay, is the process where you guys like plump the hide.
Oh, yeah. So,
and lock the follicle and all that stuff.
Yeah, I guess I could just go back from the beginning, like when you bring the hide in, kind of what the process is.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got 2 more questions, but we'll cycle back.
Okay. So when somebody brings me a hide in, we do a quick work order. And it doesn't matter if it's air dried or salt dried at that point. When we go to and process it, we first rehydrate it. And then we put it in a pickle solution, which was what Chris is talking about as far as plumping that skin up to shave it. It's formic acid, water, and salt. And salt is in every solution in a tannery, by the way. So once it sets in the pickle for at least 24 hours or so, depending on the size of the hide, then we can shave it with that shaver I talked about earlier. And then it'll go back into a clean pickle. And then I'll wait a couple days, and then we'll run it through the tan.
Okay.
So it doesn't take long to tan a skin.
Gotcha.
I've done a lot of bears this season within 2 to 3 weeks because I got them started right away.
No kidding.
Yep.
Really?
I tanned a caribou in 6 days. It doesn't take long at all. What takes long at those big tanneries, what takes so long is the backfill.
Yeah.
The backlog.
Yeah.
That's why I only accept what I want to have.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I take in a small quantity so I can get a faster turnaround.
Yeah. Okay.
I've never had anything longer than 12 weeks once I started.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said.
That's impressive.
Structuring your business to not take forever, right?
Yeah, and that's why I don't want to be a taxidermist because I wouldn't sleep. I wouldn't sleep at night.
Yeah, taxidermist, you don't have a choice.
Yeah, I wouldn't sleep at night knowing I've got 2-3 years worth of work backed up.
It's just like
right.
There's company I work for, sheet metal, right? You walk in the door, Chris. We dealt with this recently. You walk in the door and order metal. If you order in the morning, there's a real good chance it'll be ready at the end of the day. Panels, trim, anything standard, right? Most custom stuff is still considered standard unless it's a special order item, and it's same day, next day, and that is the policy, right? Unless it is a custom special order item, and that has been something that my boss, the owner, set up from the beginning, right? Like, this is going to be the way we're going to operate. So when he needs to buy a new piece of equipment that may cost, I think that's like, check's not as big compared to what that piece of equipment costs as I thought, right?
Yeah.
But because he'll buy, what he will do, hire the people he needs to do to keep that policy, because then, because there's another sheet metal place in town. You're usually 2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, even Steve with Hammer Bullets, he was talking about that when we had him on. Just always buying a new piece of equipment
to keep it rolling.
Yeah, because don't want to be 3-4 weeks behind when people are buying bullets before hunting season. And then
when I started this business, I knew from the get-go I wasn't going to stress myself out on it.
Yeah.
This isn't I want to make $1 million in a year type operation.
Right.
This is my basically second career. It pays the bills for sure, but I didn't want to stress out about it. And that's why I've never taken over what I said I was going to take. There's sometimes just recently I didn't take anything for 2 months just so I could catch up to where I wanted to be.
Right.
I always give them options. You can take it here, you can take it there.
Sure.
I don't mind. I don't mind spreading the wealth. And honestly, on that note, we could probably open up 2 more tanneries here in Fairbanks area, and everybody'd be busy. Everybody'd be eating. And with competition grows, makes me get better.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Right. That's actually a great point because that kind of leads into the 2 questions I had about the process prior to bringing stuff to you. Just to kind of wrap that up. So you've probably seen a lot of different fleshing styles, right? There's obviously fleshing knives. There's like the
draw knife,
the actual fleshing draw knife. Yes, thank you. I was blanking on that, but the draw knife style. What would you say? Ulus, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I've used them.
What would you say in what you've seen brought in from what people have explained to you how they do it? Would you say is the best that you've seen? And would a draw knife be a worthwhile investment for somebody who's a lifelong Alaskan?
Okay, before I go there, I'd like to say that razor knives aren't always the best idea for skinning. As far as fleshing goes and hide preparation, it's definitely key to have a good setup. What I use, I didn't initially use this. I used to use a piece of pine that was shaped like what we know as a fleshing beam. Well, I did that for a couple of years, didn't like it. And I had been looking online and stuff, and I found that a lot of people were using PVC.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend getting you maybe an 8-10 inch piece of PVC, cut it in half, taper the end, and that's been money for me.
Awesome.
I don't use a lot of different knives. When I'm skinning faces and paws and stuff like that, I use a scalpel. And when I'm fleshing, I'm using a fleshing knife.
Yeah.
Don't go cheap because you'll get upset.
Because you get what you pay for.
You get what you pay for sure. Yeah, just get you a good fleshing knife and get you any kind of knife that you're familiar with using. Because a lot of guys do ask that question, hey, what kind of knife should I be using? Whatever you're comfortable with, man.
Yeah.
There's no rules on this. Kind of like skinning. A lot of people do it differently. A lot of people flesh differently, turn differently.
Yeah.
Whatever you need to do to get that hide right.
Yeah.
Do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, this part of the reason I like bringing multiple knives is because of the different blade styles that I prefer. Real sharp point when you're skinning, skin close. Skin as much of that fat and muscle off as you can ahead of time while you're skinning the animal. Just saves you on the
It's
on the
always
back
better
end.
to clean skin it
Yeah.
if you got the time.
And then I like the real long rounded blade for fleshing. You know, I have fleshed with a fine pointed knife before, and it's fine. It works. You know, you just got to pay a little bit more attention. But man, being able to just kind of take those long draws, use that whole frontal part of the blade there.
Yeah,
and
I
just
know a lot
kinda
of guys that
wrap
use
around.
fillet knives.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are money.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't
doing
use
bears.
I don't use a fillet knife, but yeah.
I seen guys do like whole bears with fillet knives and like beavers. You're like, whoa,
Yeah.
that is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of practice.
That's yeah.
Yeah.
What's those little plastic handled, little short, like 5-inch long knives? It's like a 2.5-inch long blade. You can buy them for like $10
Like a
at
paring
Walmart.
knife.
Yeah, something
Oh,
like
Like it's
that.
a kitchen knife.
They're just
Yeah.
real thick blade.
Dude, they're awesome.
Like
Super-
deep blade, I should say.
No. These ones are they are perfectly.
It's almost
straight.
like a steak for a kid,
Yeah.
non-serrated.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
just a cheap little plastic multicolored handle. You can get them in red, green, blue, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I work with one of these guides that he's a coworker at one of my camps that I work for, and I have watched him do 10-foot brown bears with that knife.
Mm.
I mean, all the work. Now he's sharpening it every 10 minutes, it seems, if not
Yeah.
less, but it's what he likes. And if he loses it, he has 3 more in his dry bag that just
Right.
don't be walking
You
around
say
too
all
much
the
and step
work.
on that
We're
knife.
talking
Yeah.
from like skinning,
All of the work.
man. Because I could see something like that for your fleshing if you're just like doing this.
Dude, those knives are like
I feel
$3 at
Yeah.
Fred Meyer.
Super
There you
cheap.
go.
You know what else? Like a kitchen supply store.
Yeah.
Those like if you're into that, those I have a few of those knives and they're awesome. Like doing cats and doing
Yeah.
little
paring knives
critters.
are good too. Just
Yeah.
regular
Yeah,
kitchen
that's-
paring knives.
That's what he's
Yeah.
talking about. Is that paring knife?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I'll bet you something like that would be really nice for the smaller critters too.
Oh, yeah, that's what I use for everything.
Yeah.
And he just laughs when I pull out an expensive, like a Montana knife, company knife. He just laughs. He's like, wait till you lose that thing. You're going to cry.
Well, and
That's why I have orange tape around the handle.
yeah, right. One word I'd say is if you're planning on doing it with a blade or a knife that has replaceable blades, make sure you have enough replaceable blades.
Yeah.
Because you'll
Oh,
go
yeah.
through them.
And learn how to
Yeah.
resharpen blades, because when you get down to your last couple and you haven't done all your face work yet, you're going to start
Mhm.
sharpening those scalpels.
Yeah, that's when it's really key to have a nice sharp
Yeah.
knife.
Yeah.
When you're doing face in small areas
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
I was just working on a bear today, actually taking the skull and the feet out of it, and I probably went through 10 blades just on the head
Yeah.
because I don't want to get dull. Because when you get dull, you start pushing,
Right.
Yeah.
and
That's when I was fleshing the toes on my wife's bear. I was probably going through a blade every 4 toes.
That's what makes it so
Like-
nice is a scalpel.
Yeah.
Well,
That's the
so I've
only way
got-
to go. Like an
so-
actual like surgical
so
scalpel.
I've got. I used to have one of those Havilon knives. And I loved that thing because it's sharp pointed, so you can really get in there and kind of gently dig away at that flesh. In case nobody caught on, Sportsman's quit carrying those. So I went in there to look for a replacement for mine, and they didn't have any. So what they're carrying now is a buck variety of it. So I bought that, and it actually works pretty good.
So if you get like a
what-
surgical scalpel with like
Yeah,
a
that's-
1-inch blade,
that's more what I'm talking. That's what I use.
you got me going
specifically.
on that too.
Oh, yeah?
That's
Mhm.
yep.
Yeah, that's the way to go. And you can order tons of blades on Amazon for real
Mm.
cheap.
Yeah.
And then
Gotcha.
it's just a quick replacement, inch, maybe half-inch blade.
So something about those scalpel blades, right? So that the Havilons take all those same blades, and there's a ton of companies that make those little scalpel adaptable knives.
This buck one I'm talking about is a carbon copy of a Havilon.
Yeah.
It looks identical.
Yeah. And it takes the exact same blades, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a difference in the steel quality in some of those blades.
Yes,
Okay.
that is true.
There's the 60XT, which is really, really cheap to buy online. And then there's the 60A. The 60A is far, far higher quality. It's more
Mhm.
expensive, but everybody likes to buy the 60XTs because they're cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they also dull in half the time.
Mm-hmm.
So this year, I have not used my my scalpel blades at all. I've run the same 2 fixed blade knives all year on all my bears. And I've been through 5 or 6 different bears now.
Mm-hmm.
And I used the Montana knife mini speed goat, which is a really short, very, very small, very, very lightweight, and it's got a nasty little point on it. I've been using that on all the feet and doing all the face work, turned the ears, lips, nose, eyes, everything with it. And I can go a long time on one good sharpening on that knife. And then for all of like the skinning work, I've got their Stonewall skinner, and that's a longer profile. I've fleshed with that. I've skinned with it. But when I've used the Havilons and like for sheep and other really, really fine trophy detail work, like getting around the horns and things like that, a Havilon, I think is the only way to go. But those 60As, and then they also make a 60, I think it's called a 60D blade, which has a rounded off end, which for digging out toes out of a joint, because that was the hardest thing for me to do with bears. Starting out,
last joint
was getting out to the last joint without sticking that little Havilon blade through the
And
hide.
that's where a scalpel comes into play, where it's a total game. And we're talking about medical grade scalpels.
I was saying, so that's good steel, what you're talking about.
So in one company that makes those that I use, I don't know what brand you use, Rob, but
whatever my wife orders.
Yeah. So Havel, not Havilon, Havel makes a really good kit. They're like 2-inch. My wife, and someone we know that's a taxidermist in town also uses those. But you can get like a huge 1,000 pack of blades.
No kidding.
Yep. And it comes with 3 scalpel handles. And we're talking about like surgical room scalpels, not scalpel hunting blades. And you can really get in those toe joints with that. I mean, I can burn through bare feet.
Yeah.
Like that's like, so Sawyer showed me some stuff stacked on what top of what you showed me, Rob, stacked on top of what you showed me. I can have bare feet out now. I feel pretty cool
Pretty
stuff.
confident about the feet.
But if you're using those
with a scalpel.
Yeah.
If you're using those kind of razor blades and you're learning, especially those rounded end ones are really, really nice for that, because you're not going to poke holes in them, because there is no little, needle point on the end of that blade.
Well, and like, he was saying, the reason I was going through a blade every 4 toes was because you pointed out, when they get dull, you start pushing. That's when you go through. That's when you break through. Like, you've got to have that thing to the point where you don't have to put any pressure on it. It'll just cut through.
And you can easily go through multiple blades, especially if because you're cutting on that bone.
Yeah. They go quick.
Or you're
Hey, Rob,
trying to find that side cut.
could you break down you showed me a really cool way to do heads on critters. Could you kind of verbalize like a little breakdown, and in reference to that scalpel, you should because I used to fight them backwards. I used to always
from the front.
Yeah, I used to always start from the rear end all the way down to the head, and you'd have, in my case, bullet hole blood dripping down, and you're stuffing paper towels in these bullet holes, and all your blood's collecting at that little
and you don't know where
trough
you're
at
cutting.
the bottom around the ears. And why don't you?
Yeah, it's a little trick I picked up from a guy that used to work over there at one of the taxidermy shops as a skinner. So we'll say like you're case skinning a critter. You pull up over the head. You pull the skin up over the head, and then you do the ears. You pull the ears out, and then you stop there. You go to the front, right there on the top gum line, and you start cutting the gum line out all the way around and down. And then you basically cut that nose, and you're peeling the face back to meet that ear.
Yep.
Okay.
And what that does for me anyway is it eliminates, some false cuts. But I also know where I'm at all the time.
Yeah.
So when I'm doing that from the nose forward and I'm getting to the eyes, I can just stick my finger down in that eye hole and know exactly where I'm cutting, leave exactly enough skin that's needed for a mount or whatever.
Absolutely.
It just makes life a lot easier, and it is quick.
Yep.
And like you're doing less fleshing because it's clean skin.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. I do that on certain animals. I tend to do it more on like caribou and sheep and some of the clients' animals. Like if it's in a position, for instance, like a big bear. A lot of times, if it's laying in the right spot, the first thing I'll do before I do anything else is I'll just make that mouth cut from the front, and then I'll roll it over. And then by the time I get the head skinned up to that point, you think you have the rest of the head to go, and then you get to that middle cut on the head, and you're already done. But that helps the process go a lot faster too.
Yeah,
if it's in the right position. But
that's a good tip. That's a real good tip.
It's worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to do.
And you do that with a scalpel too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like 100%.
I wouldn't even touch it with any other kind of knife. But like I said, it's personal preference. I've seen a lot of guys use a lot of different things, and as long as you're getting to the end line there, for what it needs to be.
Yeah, what works
I
for
don't
you.
care. I don't care how you do it.
As long
Just do it, please.
as long as you're not ruining it. Yeah. So I got one more question before we head off for a second. So you'd mentioned you don't take a ton of work more than you can handle to keep your turnaround time short, right?
Right.
So for somebody, let's say they shoot a bear at the end of season, and we'll just use that since that's the most recent season we just went through. They shoot a bear last day. You're piled up, right? You've been getting bears all season long. If they do all of this process, right? Everything we've talked about thus far. So making sure it's dry, making sure it's fleshed, making sure it's got the salt, making sure everything's split and fleshed out that needs to be. What are the ideal storage conditions somebody should have their hide in? While let's just say they really want to bring it to you and they just want to wait until you're
salt dried.
Salt dried, it's fleshed, it's good to go. They just need to hold on to it until you can get to it.
Keep it in a cool, dry place.
Mm-hmm.
Very little humidity, and keep it up off the ground.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, I would assume you're not going to store that in your living room, so you're going to put it out in your shop or your garage.
Unless you have no sense of smell.
Keep it up and out of the way. Another thing you want to look at too, it doesn't necessarily, I haven't seen a lot of it on salt dried critters, but air dried, if it's hanging around too long in the wrong areas, it'll get bugs. And the bugs will start eating that skin.
Gotcha.
And I'll know right away when I see a buggy skin because there'll be little pinholes in it all over.
Gotcha.
So just avoid that. But cool, dry place. And I was telling you guys earlier that we tanned a bear that was salt dried for 10 years. Last year we did that one.
Wow.
Turned out perfect.
Wow.
So if you prep the hide, you can keep it around for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will say I have had a bear hide in a shed at one point when it was freshly dried. And that one, not from this year, but that one rehumidified just from the humidity in the air after a good rain. It was in a shed. It was out of the rain. It wasn't getting poured on, dripped on, nothing. Elevated off the floor. But just the humidity in the air just absorbed back into that
They're
hide.
like sponges.
Yeah, and I had to go through the whole process of getting it dried again because I didn't want slippage or anything like that. And I caught it pretty quick. I knew it was risky to keep it in there, and then of course it dumped on me. The one weekend I was hoping it was going to be sunny, but so yeah, just being covered in a non sealed off area is not enough. Yeah. That'll ruin your hide pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean you could probably store it in a tote as well, up off the ground and
I've got
sealed off tote.
Both my bear hides at the moment in my shed, but one's hung over a sawhorse. The smaller one's hung over a sawhorse. The big one's hung over a ladder because sawhorse wouldn't work. And
it's a good problem to have.
The small one has just completely it was salt dried, but even a salt dried bear isn't completely dry, and now all that air is moisturized or suck the moisture out of it, and it's real nice and dry. And the big one's on its way. I haven't had an issue in there. It's it's a big shed. It's in the shade.
There you go.
And there's a lot of air movement in there, so I haven't.
And that's key too. Air movement.
Yeah.
Along those lines too, if you kill the bear the last day of the season and you don't salt dry it, you don't flesh it, you can always take it. There's people in town that will do that for you. Yeah. I mean, you're going to pay for it, but we can do it if we have the time. Neil does a great job.
Yeah.
We all know Neil. He works over there with Kevin now at Back. So he'll flesh it up for you and salt dry it.
Right on. Yeah, no, and that's probably a better option to go with if you're unsure of what you're doing. And, well, unless you're willing to play with it and learn and get hands-on experience.
Yeah. So also what I offer to folks is bring it in and we'll do it together.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I've done tons of people that come in. I've helped them, skin it, flesh it, turn, split, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So they're learning, and I'm going to get a better product next time.
Yeah, I would say it makes your life easier in the future.
It does. Yeah.
You're not losing any revenue to teaching people that either. It's not like you're giving up trade secrets because it's useless stuff you don't have to do.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I'm all about spreading knowledge. I don't care. Like we were talking about the competition with the other tanners, that just, makes me better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Makes me get better.
Gives you motivation.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Not that I don't try to get better every day, but competition.
It's good for it.
Is a good thing.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Well, let's take a real quick break and then we'll keep rolling. Hammer Bullets produces what we at the Northern Hunter consider to be the most premium and best working monolithic bullets on the market today. These bullets are easy to load, extremely accurate, and best of all, they're always in stock and ready to ship. The guys at Hammer designed them so that after penetrating the hide of an animal, it sheds its petals, initiating a massive energy dump while retaining the rear shank for maximum penetration. These bullets are built with 100% focus on how they perform on game, and their proprietary designs produce great BCs with specialized pressure grooves for amazing inherent accuracy and speed. They have a minimum expansion velocity of 1,800 feet per second, which allows for long-range shots, but with no maximum velocity, making them perfect for every cartridge from your granddaddy's old 30-30 to the high-velocity round like the Weatherby 30-378 without having to worry about your bullet failing. To view their expansive selection and find the perfect match for your hunting needs, go to hammerbullets.com and use discount code TheNorthernHunter to drop the hammer on your next adventure. All right. So obviously that's half the process, right? Everything we just talked about up till now. Well, we went into a little bit of the process of what you do as far as when you get hides. But so we've covered the process that you can't control of what people do at their own homes.
Right.
Why don't you, I'm really curious if you don't mind breaking down more of like the process of getting it tanned or getting it to that final tanning process. What's like the standard procedure? And then I'll just ask questions as we go. Like,
Okay.
you said you soak it and then kind of what happens after that?
Yeah, so we'll just use a bear as an example.
Sure. Yeah.
If that works. What we'll do is we'll take a salt-dried bear. I'll mix the rehydration, and we got to have everything precise. Measurements, weights, all that stuff. We'll get it rehydrated. Typically takes about 24 hours for a hard salt-dried bear to get relaxed enough. And then we spin it out in the wash machine. We got a wash machine, which is gold in my shop. And we spin it out, and then we put it in the pickle solution like I talked about earlier, which is basically formic acid, salt, and water. And a number of tanneries use different types of acid. I've found that formic acid holds a solid pH, because that's another thing that we have to test on a regular basis is the pH of the solutions to avoid bacteria growth.
Okay.
And that's what that pickle does as well, is it halts or stop, it halts the bacteria growth if there is any there.
Yeah.
Okay. And it won't allow any bacteria to grow in that environment.
Does that pH decrease over time then?
No. So in the pickles that we use in formic acid, it stays pretty baseline for us. I rarely have to add any type of acid, or rarely have to add any acid to it.
Oh,
gotcha.
Now, if I keep a pickle for a couple months and it's still fairly clean, I may need to add some acid, but it's not much at all.
Interesting. Yeah.
So you can just reuse the same solution over
the same pickle. Yeah.
Yeah, the same pickle.
Yeah, we never reuse the same tan.
Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
So we can use the same pickle for any heights. I can have a bear in there, 2 grizzlies, black bear, moose skin. It doesn't matter necessarily.
Okay, yeah.
It can all go in that same pickle.
Okay.
But when it comes to the next process, which is shaving, if I've got a big moose in there, I'm going to get that thin enough to where it's soft and pliable. Whether the client told me what they're going to do with it or not, we'll still get it nice and thinned out so it's a soft product.
Okay, yeah.
So along those lines, if you get something back and it's hard, it wasn't tanned properly.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Because a lot of people ask me, hey, will this get soft tanned? I'm like, of course,
Yeah.
But they don't know. I don't tell them like that. But
right.
I explain the process to them.
Is that what some tanneries might call like garment quality, or is there another step beyond that?
So when you're talking about garment or taxidermy quality, stuff like that, there's a number of tans that you can use out there. We've had 2 different tans over the years. And our tans that we use, we get it from McKinsey Taxidermy Supply out of North Carolina.
Okay.
And that is good for taxidermy tan or a garment tan.
Oh.
When you're getting something taxidermy tanned, it usually costs more in other places.
Right.
We don't, and you see like mink and moils as an example.
Yeah, sure.
They have a taxidermy price.
That's why I'm asking.
And a garment price. With the taxidermy, they're going to spend a lot more time on that shaver, doing detailed work around the face.
I see.
The paws, all that stuff to get it mountable.
Right.
Whereas a garment tanned, and you're typically only using the body of it.
Right.
They don't necessarily mess with the head or the feet.
I see.
So that's really the big difference between taxidermy and garment quality.
I'm sure that cuts out a lot of labor time.
Labor time.
In those big tanneries, when you're pushing stuff through like that, it absolutely does. But we shave everything. We
Okay.
shave everything except marten. We typically don't have to shave any marten because they're real thin, or
Sure.
ermine,
Yeah.
or squirrels. We've done a lot of squirrels,
You done
actually.
squirrels?
I did 107 ground squirrels for one guy,
What?
one order. He'd made a parka out of it.
Nice.
It was really cool. Yeah.
Flex right
Ground squirrel.
Yeah,
Flex.
the ground squirrels, yeah.
Where the heck do you get 107 ground
It
squirrels
was
around
in
here?
southeast Alaska. Somewhere
yeah.
down there. Yeah, one of the
Wow.
villages, yeah.
That's so cool.
Nice.
Yeah, so we shave everything except for those smaller critters.
Okay.
And get them, usually with wolves and things like that, fur bears, I'm just getting the membrane off.
Mhm.
So it will be softer in the end.
Yeah.
So I shave it, and then most of the critters need a degreasing, if not 2 sometimes. So we'll degrease them in a solution,
Okay.
and then we'll spin them out, put them in that new pickle. And that new pickle, what it does is it plumps it up more, but it's opening up those pores to accept the tannins.
Gotcha.
So the more open your pores are, the more tan you get in there in the solid tan. It's not necessarily a surface tan,
Right.
it's penetrated.
Gotcha.
So that's why we shave.
Okay.
And then after the new pickle, if it sits in the new pickle for a while, then I'll start a tan, which again is a soaking solution, water, salt, and the tanning powder that we use.
Gotcha.
We use Tan TX 2001. I'll plug that. I got no problem with that. We used to use Paratan, which was a solid product, but I've realized over the years, just trying different things, that this Tan TX 2001 is the better option for us.
Okay.
A little better quality. And then once it comes out of the tan, and tan usually takes anywhere from 12 hours to 2 days.
Okay.
Sometimes 3, depending on the size of the bear or the hide. Bears, I'll usually tan for 3 days.
Okay.
That really gets that penetration in there, and I'll move it around from time to time.
I was just going to ask, do you leave it in there stagnant or keep
No,
it moving?
I keep it moving.
yeah.
Through maybe once or twice a day. I'll stir it up, move the pieces so they don't fold on top of each other and whatnot.
Yeah.
The bigger tanneries now, they've got those tumblers I was telling you about,
Yeah.
Mhm.
but they're tanning in there, so it's all liquid in there,
Really?
and it expedites the process of the
I
tanning.
see.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
a
so
giant
you're
washing
talking-
machine.
Yeah, basically, you're talking 3 or 4 hours versus 8, 10, 12 hours.
Wow.
I'm not going to mess with that. I don't have the equipment for that one. So we just use those big, 150 gallon totes that you see at the feed stores,
Mm-hmm.
and we do the tan, and then we pull it out of the tan, spin it out again, and then I hang it to dry to about 90-95%. And then we use a tanning oil on it. So that's another thing that's going to soften it up. It's softening agent. And it's nothing more than a paint on oil,
Okay.
and that'll soak into the hide. We'll fold it up skin to skin, no skin showing, and I'll let that set anywhere from 1 to 3 days.
Gotcha.
So that oil is just permeating that skin.
Yeah.
And then I take that out, we hang it to dry completely,
Yeah.
and it'll be soft at that point.
Yeah.
And then we run it through our tumbler with wood flour mix and mineral spirits that helps clean the fur and the hair.
Okay.
And once it's done with the tumbler, I may need to, what we call, I'd say I'm beating it, but it's called staking is what it's called.
Okay.
You stake it out, and some hides need that. If they're not quite the softness that I want,
Sure.
I'll use the staking machine that we have. And then after that, it's a matter of grooming.
Mm-hmm.
So with our grooming process, I have a high-powered blower, and we blow all that wood flour out. Then we brush it, we blow it out again, and then we brush it and put a fur glaze on it, which is another taxidermy supply thing that we use. Helps, shine up the fur, smell a little better too.
Yeah.
Not that our stuff stinks, but
Right. Yeah.
a little extra, a little flavor. And we vacuum it. And then it goes to the storage where we have the storage area now for finished furs. And the client comes. I have really good luck with clients coming to pick up their stuff as soon as it's done.
Right. Yeah.
And sometimes I get it already. Yeah.
Well, you'd
Are
get
you
that
sure?
from me if I didn't know ahead of time.
Are you sure that's my bear? I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, sure. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Because and that's another thing too. When we take them in, I punch it. Or I don't punch, but because some tanneries punch codes into their skin.
Sure. Yeah.
We don't do that. I use a series of colored zip ties and my tags that I use that will follow that animal through the whole process.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So the acid doesn't bother it, nothing like that.
Oh, awesome. Well, that's a lot more to that process than I thought there was.
I tell you right now, the first word that comes out of my mouth when you call me and say that all my stuff is done is actually going to be already. That's exactly what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
No, that is an in-depth process. So how? Go
Well, I was just going to say I've had other people tell me, oh, don't be telling people how to tan this stuff. And I'm like, I think that would just weed them out by the physical labor of it.
Yeah.
right.
There's a little bit of science, a little bit of art, and a whole lot of physical labor.
Yeah.
Right.
I stay in great upper body shape anyway.
I can imagine
doing this stuff, and you got to be dedicated.
Yeah.
Because not every skin's going to be the same.
Oh, sure.
I mean, for the most part, they are, but you could have two different bears that will react differently to certain things.
So how many? I was going to ask, how many hours a day are you spending in the tannery, just doing all these different processes?
Well, I'm retired, so I spend about 2 hours a day in there.
Right.
No. On top of doing, I love what I do, and it definitely helps pay the bills. I'll typically stay in there. My set goal is 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. Every day.
Yeah.
Now, if I want to go hunting for a week, I just leave.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of being a small business owner,
Right.
and not having to worry about anything.
Yep.
But I a lot of times I spend weekends in there if I got because I can't just leave something if I started it late.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to work on it Saturday and Sunday, which I'm fine with.
I was going to say, there's no pause in that process, I'd imagine.
Not unless it's in the pickle.
Yeah.
If it's in the pickle, it can stay there forever as long as the pH stays correct.
Interesting. So you mentioned a lot about the fur at the end of that process, prep, getting the fur blown out and cleaned and shined and all that. How much does that, I guess we talked a lot about the underside of the hide for people to prepare when they bring to you.
Mm-hmm.
What about the fur side? Like, I mean, if somebody, let's say, shoots a bear in the mud, right? And it's got a lot of dirt on it, a lot of grime. Maybe they didn't, brush it off the way they should have or something. Or in the case, I keep cycling back to this, but the beavers, if you shoot a beaver in a silty river or some water like that, I mean, they're going to have all that silt in their fur.
Kodiak bears.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. And stuff like that. I mean, do you have to do like a pre-clean process to it as well? Or does it affect your solutions at all?
It doesn't affect my solutions. It just means I'm cleaning up more.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't affect it at all. I know some guys that will board their furs and the fur out. When you board them fur out, they'll brush them.
Mm-hmm.
But that's mainly for auction.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
I've had all kinds of stuff: burrs, blood, dirt, mud, all kinds of stuff.
We got a buddy that we know that's, to avoid giving you more work, is what he'll do is he'll actually use is it tail and mane?
Oh yeah.
Mane
And he'll actually, or mane and tail, right? He'll get that stuff in bulk, and then he'll scrub his down and then spray them out. Because he's like, this just gets everything nasty for the tannery, and then they look really nice too. They board nice.
Sure.
I mean, and they smell pretty good, and it gets a lot of the junk out of there anyway. If they have pitch from being up in the woods, breaking stuff down.
Yeah.
He does it with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of on both sides of that as far as washing your skins before it goes to a tanner to be processed in a controlled environment.
Mm-hmm.
Because we said multiple times, keep the fur dry.
Yeah.
I know guys that do that, what you're just saying, Chris.
And beavers are a little different than if you were doing that to like a red fox or something. They're already kind of a wet, and you do it while they're in the round.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see.
So you
I see what you're
don't
saying.
be pre-skin. You would actually just give them a nice little beaver bath.
Oh, you give them a bath.
Yeah.
Okay.
Scrub them down.
Yeah, a little beaver bath.
I've had that question. I get that question often, hey, should I wash these before I send them to you?
Yeah.
And I say absolutely not, because it'll get clean throughout the whole process.
Right. Okay.
Because I have mineral spirits, which is also a degreaser. Mineral spirits works great. It's a low odor mineral spirits, so it doesn't smell like a fire when you get it back from the tannery.
That'll take all that fish oil stink out of the
It'll
hide
take
too.
a lot of that smell out, and it'll clean the fur, and that goes in every solution I use: the tan, the pickle, the rehydration. So, and by the end, it'll be clean.
Yeah.
Nice.
It'll be cleaned.
So having a few, some leaves dried on there or some blood in the hide, no big deal. Really.
No,
Not the end of the world.
What about sheep hides or mountain goat hides?
I don't do any bleaching,
Okay.
but we have done some pretty phenomenal sheep and goat
Okay.
back
So that they come in red, bloody, stained. They come out white.
Yep.
Awesome. Without bleaching.
Absolutely.
Awesome. That's pretty cool.
I'd imagine the bleaching process could probably damage things more than
You got
it would hurt.
From what I know of it, I know little.
Yeah.
But it could be pretty dangerous if you're not following directions. I don't keep any bleach in my shop at all.
Yeah.
There's no bleach.
I remember one time I came in and you were doing that big load of Arctic fox.
Oh yeah.
And that was pretty cool because I was like, man, what's he going to do about all this?
Yeah,
and they were just, and then I went back in and talked to you again like a little while later and they were just all white hanging on the walls.
You had 12 of them in that order.
That was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. We've got the pictures you already sent us of your shop with all the fur. That's the one I'm going to use on the Instagram so people will see it when they're hearing this episode. But the furs on the table, furs on the walls,
wolves,
furs on the everywhere. Yeah. It's just everywhere.
Yeah, I do a ton of wolves. I love doing wolves. I think we topped out at 79 last year. Just wolves. And we get a lot from the local villages.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Up north, especially Brooks Range area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll get 10, 12 from a guy every year. 3 different clients we get several from every year.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's great.
A lot of moose and caribou being saved right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
just a thought too before I forget. Sorry, James. We offer a military discount, 10% military discount, and we also offer 10% ATA discount. And I mentioned the 5% salt dry discount. So just to kind of throw that out there.
Do you stack the military and ATA?
The only thing I stack is the salt.
Okay.
So if you've got military and salt dried, I'll stack it.
That's a heck of a discount.
It is.
Jeez.
But it doesn't count for bears because
They have to be salt dried.
Yeah. Does ATA count for bears?
Absolutely. ATA or military counts for anything. Skinning, fleshing, tanning.
Well, and that alone is a good enough to go join the ATA. I mean, you'll make your money back real quick. But
Get my membership right there.
Yeah, I make sure I stay tight with those guys.
yeah, no, they're a great group of guys.
It's a good organization, yeah,
It is.
for sure. And I do, I offer volunteer work all the time out there. And
Yeah. No, that's one thing I love about is just the variety of stuff you'll hear when you go to those meetings. They have the monthly meetings and everything, and different speakers. I was there one day and they were just watching a video of like old hunting and trapping.
Yeah,
like a real vintage video.
That was recently.
Yeah, recently. Yeah, it was just awesome stuff.
I didn't make it to that
cool. Oh yeah, it was cool. It was like a silent film too, and man, so many moose. It was like an old film. Like we're working with UAF, and UAF has like a film department where they're taking old film and kind of digitalizing it to preserve it. So because the film, from those older cameras and whatnot, will start to degrade over time, and you'll lose what you've got. And so they're getting, people from all over the state are sending in old films to get redone and digitalized to preserve it, so you don't lose your great granddad's hunting film.
That's
your
slick.
Granddad's, and they played one at one of the ATA meetings. It was awesome.
Silent films.
I need to start going to the ATA meetings. I keep it's all my buddies are in the ATA and they're like, dude, why aren't you there? I need to start going.
Well, and it's just a wealth of knowledge in one room too. It's so great. You just sit there, literally. And I've said this a bunch of times. For a guy that's on a podcast, I am way introverted. Like, this is where I talk. You catch me outside, I probably have my arms crossed and I'm in a corner. Like, I'm just like, I'm people watching. Like, and once you bring up the fact that you hunt, trap, fish, whatever, then we'll talk. We have common ground. But like, I'm not a super outgoing guy, I guess. But even there, it's like you just show up, and I didn't know anybody. Well, I knew Sean. I was there with Sean, but nobody else really. And then people just start talking to you.
There's a lot of good dudes involved in that.
Yeah. What are you into? What are you trying to do? What are you here to learn? This is my tricks. This isn't, and just sharing that information. It's great.
That's like what I said. The other part of loving this business so much is just talking to those trappers and hunters all day.
Oh yeah.
And just same with ATA meetings. You never know who you'll meet. I've met a lot of good people and a lot of tradesmen too, because I work on tanning credit as well. By the way, I've gotten guns. I'm getting floor work done.
There you go. The barter system is alive and well.
And if you got a boat and you need some furs tanned,
if you got a boat and a couple of grizzly bears,
I've known Rob to trade a couple Predator rifles for some fur tanning.
Yep.
That's funny.
That's awesome. So that I had a question as far as one of the horror stories people are told with the tanning process. And I think a lot of it kind of pertains from that thinning process that you were talking about. But holes in the hide, if you, because everybody's trying to flesh that hide as close as they can. And, when you're learning, you're going to goof up.
Mhm.
Like you just are. That's expect it. If it's your first deer, your first bear, your first whatever.
Or if you don't really care.
You're going too fast, have the wrong equipment, whatever it is, you're going to put holes in it. And then you got bullet holes and other things of that nature. How much do those grow over the tanning process, if at all?
They don't.
They don't.
They don't typically. No, they won't grow. The thing with holes in our shop, and I've done this from the get-go, if we put a hole in there, we'll sew it up.
Mhm.
We make every effort to sew that up. So I've got a system where I mark on the tag with just tick marks, not a lot of them, but I put a tick mark on there so I know to look for a hole.
Sure.
And unfortunately, we had an issue with a client not too long ago that they said they swore up and down they didn't put holes in this thing and it was riddled with holes and I didn't do it.
Mhm.
So where do you go?
Right.
So from that point on, I started taking pictures right before I put any kind of blade to it.
Sure.
I mean, I hate to do that, but
Yeah.
I take pictures with their tag on it.
Yeah.
You've also
So-
got to protect your integrity too.
Yeah, absolutely. Because
yeah.
they could just go out and say I put all the holes in there, and then 5 people won't use me. So yeah, we make every effort to sew holes up, and if you want us to sew, we'll do that too. If you want us to sew the holes up,
You
but
charge by the hour for that, or
yeah, by the hour.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
how much by the hour?
Sorry
Sorry to put you on the spot.
No,
I'm just for
Sometimes by the piece.
Yeah,
No.
I'm sure.
No, our shop is $70 an hour, $70 an
That's
hour,
actually
which is
really
pretty
good, yeah.
fair across the board.
Oh yeah.
And that's another thing with pricing. When I first started this gig, I had some help from Kevin, but I was like, what do I price this stuff at? I'm a rookie,
Mhm.
Right.
I haven't really figured out the cost of shipping tanning supplies up and all that stuff.
Right.
So I went with a very low baseline based off what I'd seen from other tanneries in Alaska, lower 48. I'd look at their price list and say, okay, well, I'm going to go $10, $15 cheaper than that.
Mm-hmm.
And then as time went on and I got better, then I started raising the prices, but I would never go above what other tanneries do.
Sure. Yeah. Keep it in that fair range.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
No, that's a good model for growing small business. I mean, I'll say especially it grows people's confidence in your business when they see better products coming out. I don't think anybody minds when they see prices go up. When the product matches.
Yeah, most
the price.
people don't balk at my prices.
Yep. Do you mind plugging what it is? You mentioned it off the air for us before. What you charge for tanning?
Oh, well, so on flat skins, we charge by the square foot. As an example, moose is the most costly, $25 a square foot.
Mm.
And bison are $25 a square foot. And then we go all the way down to $18 or $15 a square foot for caribou.
Okay. Yeah.
And then bears are charged on linear foot. So we measure them nose to tail, base of tail when they're rehydrated. And then $55 a foot for black bear, $65 a foot for grizzly.
Okay.
And we do have a price list. So if anybody's interested, I update my price list every year.
Mm.
I'd be more than happy to send that out to you guys. And it talks about everything, our terms and conditions, discounts, prices on everything that we do.
Mm. Awesome.
You have a really good Facebook page too, where you got all that, like a lot of your work, and people can go on and have a gander.
Oh yeah, I post quite a few pictures on Facebook because, like I said, that's our only platform besides word of mouth.
Sure. Yeah. No website or nothing like that right now.
No,
Okay, yeah.
it's just one more thing for me to maintain.
Right.
And I haven't seen a need for it because we stay plenty busy. If I
Mhm.
shut down for 2 or 3 months at a time, I know I'm busy. If I'm not taking in new stuff,
Right.
for 2 months.
It's a good problem to have.
And you're busy when you open back up that first day.
Yeah, as soon as so a lot of times I'll put it out on Facebook, hey, we're taking hides again. I'll get, 20, 30 calls within that week.
Oh, wow.
Oh, hey, I forgot to bring that. Yeah, so it's more of a reminder too
Yeah,
to
sure.
people.
Yeah.
But even if no clients came ever again, I think I would still have plenty of work through the taxidermist that I tan for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and that's one thing I'll point out just about kind of this whole group in Fairbanks. There are a lot of companies that work together
Mhm.
to do work, whether it's the the gun industry here or the taxidermy industry here or whatever it is. I like seeing that so much of the Fairbanks small businesses just throw stuff back and forth and they'll work together and, you know, play off each other's strengths and stuff like that. I think it really helps create a better product in the end for the customer.
Yeah, I never realized how good it would be to run a small business, especially here, because there's the place called the Small Business Development Center in Fairbanks. It's funded by UAF, so it's no charge to the customer. And I visited that office several times when I was coming in because I didn't know, do I want to be an LLC? Do I want to be a sole prop? What do I do? I have absolutely no clue about business, but I know I want to tan and do it for a living.
Yeah. Awesome.
So a lot of coaching from them helped me out greatly.
Oh yeah. No, that's it's awesome. A complicated world getting into the legal aspects of everything.
Yeah,
I mean, good night. They don't make it easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure you know that.
Oh man. Yep. It's funny when you were talking about taking pictures. It's like the first thing I do when I walk into a project is I have a contract.
Mm-hmm.
I have to take pictures of everything because it's one of these things where like I'm on the floor, but I put measuring tape on the counter and you chipped my countertop in here, and then now we're replacing countertops, and so I gotta.
What are you gonna do? It's the customer, yeah.
Well, and yeah, and I mean, so and it's when you see a lot of the stuff you talk about, I'm just like, yep.
Now
it helps me like deal with other business owners too, though, because I'm not like unreasonable. I have that, the customer's always right, but the customer's not always right.
And that's true. And there's been a couple times where I've messed a hide up and I can't fix it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give them a discount. If not, just give it back to them for free.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, and I'll own up to it, but unfortunately, a lot of people aren't honest out there.
Yeah.
And you got to take pictures and,
Right.
Not that I'm going to just post those on Facebook or anything, but.
Yeah, but at least you've got them just in case anything comes up.
I can remind the client, say, hey, here's what we got.
Sure.
And then oh yeah, that's right. I did put those holes in there.
Yeah.
Because I skinned it with a weed whacker.
That's one of those things like where people talk about with those holes growing. That's why I asked the question, is because maybe it's from a misunderstanding of the process, or maybe they've seen a video somewhere, but that's always been something I've heard passed around from like the hunting communities when you're fleshing it out, if you put any holes in it, like don't be surprised if it comes back with like a hole that big from a slit,
Yeah, I haven't noticed anything significant as far as growing.
Good.
And I've had cats come in, I've had fox come in that were shot with 22 270s, just big gaping holes, barely holding on to the front half to the back half, and we tan that fine and it stays together.
Yeah.
So that's not making that hole any bigger.
Good. We're myth busting on this show.
Mm-hmm. So that's another cool thing about, just having a tanner around, is asking them questions, because there's a lot of speculation out there on tanneries, I guess.
Yeah.
So I always encourage people to call me or email me, whatever, just ask the question. And
yeah. Well, it is kind of weird. Like everybody knows what to do beforehand, at least if you've been around, you know what to do beforehand to take it to you. And everybody knows the product you get back. But really, I mean, the whole in between, like when you were explaining that to me earlier, I mean, that was mostly a mystery. I knew bits and pieces of the process, but
it's a pretty fail-safe operation as long as you're following protocol, your pHs, your proper poundage and stuff like that. So.
Well, and it sounds like it's something that you could do DIY if you wanted to.
Oh, and I always encourage people to tan themselves.
Yeah.
Now, I wouldn't start out on a big grizzly bear, because that'll break your heart. Because we talked about the thick skin earlier. You're never going to get a grizzly bear soft without thinning that skin out.
Sure. Yeah.
But a fur bear, small fur bear, even a wolf and below, I always encourage people to do it, and I'll help them do it.
Huh.
I'll tell them the exact processes that they could do as a home tanner. They're not going to be doing static solutions like I'm doing in my shop, but there's tons of ways to tan a skin, preserve it.
Mm-hmm.
So I always encourage that. Now, sometimes we do have what I call retans. They will try it themselves. It won't work out like they thought, so they'll send it in and I'll tan it. But at least they gave it the shot.
How hard is that? I mean,
to retan?
Yeah.
It's not hard at all.
You don't have to go through any extra process to undo?
It goes through the same exact processes.
No kidding.
Yep.
Okay. So it doesn't ruin anything if you try it yourself and then have to bring it to you afterwards, because you're just like, I don't know what I'm doing.
I haven't seen anything. I had a guy bring me in a black bear that he had tried to tan himself.
Oh, cool.
And unfortunately, he wasn't able to degrease it well enough.
Mm-hmm.
So there was grease on the skin. There was grease in the hair.
Yeah.
But I was able to retan it and it turned out fine.
No issues with slippage?
No.
Or anything like that?
No, because at that point, the tannins have already done their work.
Okay.
So it's a preserved hide.
Gotcha.
You won't see slipping after tanning.
Right.
As far as I know, I've never seen it.
Gotcha. Well, cool. Have you ever got requests to do like just leather, like without hair on it?
Yeah, we've done caribou hair off a couple different times.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of it because it's a little bit more of a process.
Is it?
And it costs a little more too.
Does it? What's that look like?
You would think that hair off would cost less, but it actually costs more.
Right. Well, I've seen a couple videos of the process and having to actually go through and scrape all that hair off. And get it all...
When I get a hide in, and it doesn't happen, we haven't done a lot of them, but when I get a, say, caribou hide in and they want just the leather, what I'll do first is I have a solution that I order from Taxidermy Supply to help that hair slip out. It's a lime-based solution. I'll just put that in water for a day or two. It has to be flushed first. I got to flush all this stuff off, otherwise it just stink up the shop. But a couple days, and then you just put it on a flushing beam, and that you can. A lot of times, you can just take your hand and wipe that hair off.
No kidding.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and then we shave one side of it, depending on what they're going to do with it, to make it thin. And then it goes through the same process.
Huh. So that just like helps dissolve the follicles of the hair.
It opens them up.
Oh, okay.
So they fall out, which is essentially what's happening in hair or slippage.
Right.
That pore is getting eaten out by bacteria.
I see.
And it can no longer hold that hair follicle.
I see. Okay.
So you're just kind
or that hair
replicating and just on purpose.
I'm replicating. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Fascinating.
Hey Rob, can you talk about some of the dyes and stuff that they offer to dye some of that leather, like some of that hide like that?
I can't really speak on that. I don't do any dyeing.
Okay. They sell kits for that though, right?
They sell get on any taxidermy supply company will have everything you need to do whatever you want with the skin. And so going back to the home tanning thing, what I always encourage people to do is not give up in the drying process.
Gotcha.
That's when people start, breaking down into tears and throwing their hides away. And because at that point, when it's drying, you have to work it really well. And what you're doing is you're creating heat and friction getting that heat. You're drying it out, but at the same time, you're keeping those pores open. And it's a lot of breaking, especially if you're doing something with the head on.
Man.
I always recommend people either on a side of a 2x4, side of plywood, or edge. But the best thing is a piece of steel.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's not too coarse on it or anything? Or
nope. Nope. I got a bar that I use. It's a steel bar that's on my workbench. And I have to hand break a lot of things still, like Martin and Ermine and stuff like that. It tumbled.
Sure.
But then I hand break them as well.
Yeah.
On that metal piece. It's just not necessarily a sharp edge, but kind of like this table,
Right. Yeah. Lightly rounded.
Yeah.
But just.
Yeah. So that's usually the process when people stop, or part of the process when people stop.
Gotcha.
That's why it's not encouraged to do a big game hide right off the bat, because it'll be heck trying to break that thing.
Yeah. Well, if you mess up a marten hide, like if you just destroy it, you're not going to feel so sad.
Yeah.
As a big bear.
Unless it was your first marten. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, but still, it's just a marten.
Not as heartbroken as your bear. Yeah, that's true. I will say that. Yeah.
You ever tan a porcupine hide?
Oh Lord.
Oh, I'm interested in this question.
Once and never again.
Oh, dang it.
Yep, never again. If you bring me a porcupine hide, it might cost you about $1,000 to get that thing tanned.
Really?
They are horrible.
Even with no quills?
I haven't. The one that I did had quills.
So what if it was?
So if it didn't have any quills, I think it'd be just fine. It'd be just like a wolverine or a badger or something. So a friend of mine, she was up here, hunted, getting on all that stuff, trapping, military girl. And she brought me a porcupine edge. Said, "Hey, you need to tan this?" I'd tanned some stuff for her before, and I'm like, "Sure, I'll give it a shot." I couldn't even flesh that thing because the quills.
Yeah.
I did it like 2 strokes, and there was a hole in it already. I'm like, crap.
It's thin.
So I had to degrease it, and then I got through the whole process, but I'm still, and this was like 2 years ago, I'm still finding quills in my shop occasionally. So one time, and the porcupine had been long gone. When I pull the skins out of the solution, I bring it with my hands.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So what did I get? What did I get? In the palm of my hand, a quill was like a 1/4 inch.
Oh man.
So yeah, I don't do porcupines anymore.
Well, that sucks because My wife and I shoot porcupines like it's our job.
Yeah, just eat them.
And yeah, we love it. It's so delicious. But I've always thought, because some of them, I mean, they get big.
Yeah,
we
they
have
do.
some big porcupine up here.
They do.
And I've thought, I was like, man, it might be cool to do a body mount, full body mount.
Yeah, I don't know of anybody that tans them. I mean, maybe some of the bigger commercial tanneries.
Yeah,
might,
maybe.
But, I don't mess with them.
How'd that come
no
out,
price.
Rob? Just out of curiosity.
It was fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I still got a little PTSD from it. And, talking about the quill in my hand, another thing I want to remind folks too is if you board an animal, please take all the thumbtacks out, all your tacks out.
Oh, yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've been wringing out furs and I just grab those big gray ones.
Yeah.
The metal with the metal head on them. Yeah, and they're good. They're long too.
They stick in real well.
That's not your schoolhouse
And they can
thumbtack.
hide real easy too.
Ooh.
Or nails.
Yeah.
Nails is another one because some people nail their stuff to plywood to dry it out.
Sure. Yeah.
And I've gotten nails. I had one guy send in a few items, but there was one skin in particular that had 13 nails in it. So you're not even trying at that point.
Was it a beaver?
No. No, it was a big wolf that was cut open, skinned out open.
Okay.
Wow.
Oh, like caped out.
Yeah, he was just split down the middle and open skinned.
Have you ever had a bear hide come in that was dorsal cut?
I don't think so.
That's what I thought.
I don't think so.
I-
I do a lot of bear rugs. I don't do bear rugs in my shop,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
but I do a lot of tanning for bear rugs.
Yeah.
But other than that, that's
Yeah.
I mean, I've done full mounts and stuff like that, but they weren't dorsal.
Yeah.
Dorsal cut. I hardly ever see any dorsal cuts. Caribou. I see caribou capes.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm sure like sheep shoulder mount, stuff like that, you see dorsal cuts on. Like-
I've actually only done a few sheep.
Yeah.
But never seen a dorsal cut.
Interesting. Yeah. I had somebody ask me if I could do a dorsal cut for a full body mount on a bear. And I said no. Because I've never done one that way
Mm-hmm.
to do it. I've done it on other animals, but I've never done one on a bear. And
Sure.
I asked another coworker who's been guiding a long, long time, and I said, "You ever dorsal skinned a bear?" And he goes, he laughed. He thought I was joking. I said, "Yeah, this guy that I'm talking to that wants to come on a bear hunt is asking if I could dorsal skin it." And he said, "No, don't do it."
Yeah, that'd be.
Yeah, I'd never even heard of that, and he had never heard of it. And
You do
so-
that with like smaller critters.
well, no,
Like a marten, if you're going to full mount a marten, you dorsal skin it. But
I
like
do that with caribou.
big stuff.
I do that with sheep.
Do you?
Yeah. If
Oh,
you're in
yeah.
a shoulder mount.
Yeah. Any kind of taxidermy that for clients that I'm guiding, it gets cut from the back down.
Just seems like such a pain.
That's because of antlers and horns, though.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
dorsal cut it. Bears don't.
So
have
like
that.
sheep, I've done moose for shoulder mount.
I wonder what
Skin it
the
from top down.
desire would be in getting it
I
done
think
that way
I
with
know.
black bears.
Well, it's
See, I've always heard that the reason you do that isn't necessarily for the horns and antlers, but it's because when they sew it up,
yeah,
it's harder to see that zip line. Basically, if it's on the back,
Yeah.
when you put your shoulder mounted caribou on
Yeah.
a wall, everybody's looking at it from the neck,
Sure.
right? And so you want that cut. If there's any stitching that might be visible,
yeah.
it should be on the top
That
of the
makes
neck.
sense.
But I mean, that's your taxidermist, and he's going to hide it. But
Sure, yeah.
I've never talked to a taxidermist that prefers bears dorsal cut because they
Yeah.
always do them the traditional
The
way.
only time I think I would be even tempted to dorsal cut a bear, and it's totally unnecessary and you wouldn't have to, but would be like a black bear with a really nice chest feature.
Like a blaze.
Yeah, like a chevron or whatever. Like, I think that I would have a hard time cutting through the middle of.
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of those patches that were splayed open too. So you got white,
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
either side for a
Mhm.
rug or whatever. but
I've got a black bear on one of my baits that is living on, and as he gets a little bit bigger, I think there's a chance that he might get shot at some point.
End up at Rob's house.
Yeah, absolutely. And for that bear, actually, my wife and I were watching him, and our discussion varied in whether or not we wanted to shoot him. But I said, this is one bear that I might consider doing like a shoulder mount on.
Mhm.
And if I were to do a shoulder mount on a bear with a chest patch, then I would experiment and try that shoulder cape out. Only because I'm not going to save the back of the You know, that's at that point, that's just throwaway.
Yeah.
That way I would try it. So if I kill a bear at some point with a shoulder, with a chest patch, then I might try that.
Gotcha.
But only for a shoulder mount.
I would talk to your taxidermist if you do that.
Yeah.
Go back to that conversation we had at the beginning. Talk to the taxidermist.
Yeah.
My dad's a taxidermist.
Right.
He might still have to split the front because of those big old arms on that thing. If you,
Yeah, but you're
usually,
you're making your leg cuts all the way up to here.
right, but he's still got to get them on there somehow.
You can get them on there.
And so stretching that around, I don't know. I say talk to him. Don't just do it. And say,
well, no. Yeah. This is
And
obviously
not be happy with the end product.
Yeah. It's obviously going to be at least a year and a half out before I take it to a taxidermist, and that's if I shoot it next year.
That's just that I would say talk to some,
Yeah.
If you're gonna, full body dorsal, what makes sense to me if you want to do like a standing up where you can have that thin hair in the armpits up front.
Yeah.
And so you might see.
Yeah.
With the mouth open, looking all mean when you just shot over dog food.
Closed mouth.
Well, whatever you do, but you might see that up on that chest there. You might see that.
Yeah.
So if he's standing up,
Right. That would be my fear with a really nice chest feature.
But
like that.
Yeah.
You could also say, like it's not hard to buy different color thread too.
Sure. Yeah.
So
I got a question for Rob. So so say I bring you a bear, right? And I'm just going to throw it over the back of the couch or make a wall hanger out of it or something. Is when I bring it to you a good point to kind of ask you like, hey, I'm just going to hang this on the wall, Rob, or I'm going to take this to my taxidermist when you're done. I'm going to have him rug it out. Do you treat that hide differently with that information?
No.
You don't do more thinning on the face or anything like that?
No, because everything gets treated the same way, regardless if it's getting mounted or not.
That's cool.
So we don't have a taxidermy or a garment tan price.
Right.
I have a solid price, and we do the same work on every critter. Every face gets shaved, everything.
So like if down the road, you're kind of like, you got to hinker into rug something. It's just pretty much in the condition. It's ready to go from you regardless.
Yeah. And
you have a change of heart down the road or something.
Yeah. A lot of guys come in and say, I don't know if I want to rug this yet. Plus the cost, I can't afford that right now. Is there any way that this will be good for a rug later? And I look at it, make sure it's got all the appropriate features.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not a taxidermist, but with our tan, you could get this done by quality qualified taxidermist later.
Yeah.
Because it'll be preserved, lifetime shelf life on those things. And, but with a rug, and I've done this before too. When a client brings in a bear or we talk on the phone about a bear, I'll ask them what they're doing with it. And if they want to get a rug, I always recommend them go straight to their taxidermist. Let him do everything that he wants to do. Because I've also learned that certain taxidermists like certain things, which is understandable.
Yeah.
So if you want to rug it or mount it, I'd recommend going and talking to your taxidermist first.
So question on that then. If somebody wants to do a bear rug, they don't need the pads.
Correct.
Do you prefer them to just cut the pads off?
I'm glad you brought that up.
Pre-tanning?
So what the pads turn into is 3 to 4 pound rocks.
Yep.
I'm sure you know that.
Yep.
And I haven't figured out a way to tan them. I don't know anybody else that's figured out a way to tan them to get them soft.
Sure. Yeah.
So what I'll do if the pads come on with a client's bear, I'll ask them as we're doing the work order, if I can put it in my notes, do you want the pads on or off? And a lot of times they don't know. So I tell them, well, it's a cleaner look with the pads off. And you won't have those heavy rocks on the end of each foot.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they just say, yeah, cut the pads off.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll just tell me, do whatever you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I always cut pads off if they give me that option.
Yeah.
Not because they don't turn out well, but more when I'm shaving.
Yeah.
Those pads can act like cement sometimes on my blade because they're so hard already.
Yeah.
But I'll do them with pads on. We'll do it. But I always talk to the client first to see what they want.
Yeah.
I was just talking to my taxidermist about this actually, and he was saying that he'll usually recreate them.
Yeah.
So like if he's going to do like a shoulder mount or something on a black bear with like, or what is that? Like what's that mount referred to? Because you have a shoulder mount and then you have front legs out.
Like a half
body.
Oh, half mount.
Half mount. He says what he'll usually do is like he'll recreate those pads just because it just doesn't come out well in in the tanning process.
Yeah, a lot of times they'll curl up and they'll harden.
Right.
So you're going to have to recreate
And
that.
I have seen them too, like sitting with them, getting lessons. I've seen them actually take a scalpel and flush pads out and thin them
Yeah.
And then just leave them.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. On all the clients' bears, I have to flush out pads and
Oh yeah, that's a lot of fat right
get
there.
them salted. Yeah, there's a lot of fat on there.
It's amazing.
And you're not clean skinning those while you're going because that's just too much time. And
Yeah.
I was doing a Kodiak grizz the other day, and I actually measured the fat on his paws 1.5 inches.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
1.5 inches on a 9. He was 9.8.
Wow.
Yep, that's a big bear.
A lot of fat.
Supporting a lot of weight on those feet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Get some big bears.
That's a big bear.
Walking on cold ground. I bet those things are well insulated.
My favorite thing to do in guide camp when my buddy and I are there and we're both fleshing bears is to, when you get that massive chunk of pad fat off, just huck it at your buddy. Because you're all wearing rubber bibs and so, boom, slap. And, you know,
I had a client tell me the other day
Bring
that
out
they
the
cut the
childishness.
pads off and they cut that fat out of there and they cook it and eat it.
Oh, I bet that's delicious.
What?
Yeah.
I'm not going to
No,
try it,
it's-
but hey.
I'll bet it's good.
Foot fat.
I'd try it. Yeah.
Huh.
I don't know. It is just fat.
Yeah.
Pass.
Although, I mean,
Doesn't matter where it comes from. You'll eat fat from behind the eyes, but you won't eat foot
we were
pad
talking
fat.
to.
There's too much like sinew and garbage in that stuff. It's
Yeah,
like,
not if you
there
cook it
is.
down.
it's like bubbly and
Yeah, I mean,
like little tissue in there.
I don't know. Chop it up and put it in the frying pan real low, and
Let's do it.
No
this
thanks.
bear had stinky feet.
I wouldn't do
It's
it.
coming through in the taste.
I've got the whole rest of the bear to eat. I'm not messing with the feet.
You know, what I did save to put in the freezer to eat off my last bear.
What's that?
The lobes off the skull.
Yes. Yes.
I haven't done it before, but
Mm-hmm.
Black bear?
Chris, are you saying you've done that, or you haven't, or you want to?
What's that?
The meat off the skull, like the big chunks of meat up in the back of the head. Was that? Tim
No.
Jensen was saying
No.
he saved them for his.
I was gonna say
dogs.
we cut it off and just throw it in the burger bag, but you could.
Right.
I'm sure eating it by itself, it's probably tender as I'll get.
That's
out.
what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So I put them both in a.
Usually by the time I'm getting to
You're
that, I'm
talking
like,
about
I don't want to eat
Like
this.
the big top two muscles on the top of the head.
Yeah.
Huh.
I've always thought
Oh,
cutting it
yeah.
off, like there's no sinew in that.
There's
got
a-
this beautiful piece of meat.
And there's a lot of meat there.
Like it might just be like
like-
the most delicate.
Especially
like
on that
halibut
bear of
cheeks.
yours.
I mean,
Oh yeah, there was a big piece of.
I mean,
meat on that.
literally-
Yeah.
from both sides, that's a meal for two people. Gotta be.
Probably more than that on some of those bears.
Well,
I mean, on the bear,
yeah.
I kill this.
I eat a lot.
That's a double quarter pounder a piece.
Oh yeah, more than that.
That
Actually.
always ends up as eagle food on the beach.
And it shrinks when you throw it in the cast iron, right?
Yeah.
So, like,
That's something I would try
yeah,
for sure.
yeah. I'll have to keep it separate.
The
next
only
time.
thing that kind of would be a deterrent to me is like you're usually getting at the head later.
Yeah.
right,
You're right. So you're kind of like, man, this has been sitting for like 14 hours in here. I bucked all that stuff up like, right away.
as long as you get it up to temp, it'll kill anything.
You know what's good too is tongue. Have you eaten much tongue?
Oh, all the time.
Tongue is
Everything I kill, we keep the
awesome.
tongue. Yeah,
Mhm.
heart too.
Yeah.
heart on everything. Yeah,
Yep, got a
Yeah.
bear heart in the freezer.
Tongue is
Oh, yeah.
underrated as can be, man.
Found some
Yeah.
blacktail tongues left over from
Oh, did you?
that. We ate the rest of
Uh-huh.
that deer, those deer. But I had put the two little tongues because they're small deer
Yeah.
in a package.
A couple little grass
Yeah.
lickers down there in
I've
the
got
bottom
that,
of the
and I've
freezer.
got my last bear tongue. I have to make up a little appetizer meal with some head meat.
Make sure you get that bear
Mhm.
tongue up to temp though.
Ooh.
Oh yeah,
It'd
Different
be
than
just
the-
like head cheese.
Yeah.
yeah,
Pigs.
head
Yep.
cheeses. Oh man, yuck. That's something I won't.
I'm
try.
going to try that this year. I raise a couple pigs every season, and
Yeah,
I'm going to try that this year. We're going to try some head cheese.
Nice.
cool.
Right on. Well, to wrap this back to, I had a few more questions because we've talked quite a bit about the larger, tanning the larger critters. And we've got, a lot of people new to Alaska to listen to the show. But for the smaller critters, is there a difference in the process for you between like a tube skinned creature versus an unzipped creature?
Nope, process
No.
stays the same.
Process stays the same?
Yep. I enjoy having open skin critters because they're easier to shave
Sure. Yeah.
instead of constantly turning and shaving. And
Mhm.
Yeah.
so there's no real big difference
Yeah.
as far
I
as
was
the tanning process goes.
I was curious, like about the drying process, like when you get to towards the end there, if it's a little harder maybe to dry those out afterwards.
Nope, because it's an open skin critter would be just like a bear that's open or a flat
Mhm.
skin.
Mm-hmm.
We'll dry that appropriately,
Sure.
and we'll dry the tube skin critters appropriately.
Okay. Yeah.
So when they go through the tumbler after they've been oiled and dried,
mm-hmm.
they'll go through the tumbler, tube skinned animals, and we'll run them through there, and then we'll flip them first side out, and then they'll go through the tumbler again.
Gotcha.
So they get 2 tumbles.
Gotcha.
The flat skins get 1.
Okay. Makes sense. What about pricing for smaller critters? You mentioned your square footage pricing for like the bigger like bears.
Yeah. Every animal has its own price.
Yeah.
Martin are 30.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not going to go through the whole list, but
no,
just kind of
around, you said you have a pretty good list on your Facebook. But just to give new trappers an idea of what to expect.
Yeah. So
some of the basic things: lynx, fox.
Yeah, lynx are $75 per tan. Martin are 30.
Okay.
Ermine are 20. Fox are 50. Wolverine are 85. And wolves are 150.
What about a muskrat?
There's the whole price list.
I was going to say that's the whole price list right there.
Muskrats are 15, I believe. Yeah.
What if I bring you like 50 of them?
So that's another thing that I will do because I'm real flexible. With pricing, with clients, with customers, even.
Yeah.
Real flexible. So if you bring me a bunch of something, I'll give you a discount.
Okay.
Yeah. It'll just be an on the spot. It's nothing in the writing necessarily. It'll be on the work order.
Yeah.
But I don't have any bulk pricing like, say, Moyles does.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know how they I do know how they get away with that.
They're getting stuff shipped in from all over the country.
Yeah.
Probably farther, actually.
You did those muskrats for me, like when I lived on the water for a couple of years. And oh my goodness, I haven't been able to do anything with those because they're just so cool.
So soft.
Yeah, like family will come or like friends, and we just pull them out, and then my wife, she'll just sit there. She's like, these are so nice.
Yeah,
that's amazing that you can like do stuff that small and it just comes out that quality.
Yeah,
they're unreal.
Really cool would be like a muskrat blanket or something like
that. Yeah, dude.
Oh, yeah.
You need 1,000 of them.
I mean, they're not that small. Like you could do it with a decent number of muskrats. We have big muskrats
30
up here.
Yeah, 30 probably.
Dude,
it's nothing to catch 30 in a season too. If you're
true. Yeah. I know a question I had for you. Is there higher probability of the undercoat slipping than the prime hair? Like if you get like an early season bear that's just popped out and it still has its undercoat on, it's real thick still.
Like that woolly fur.
Yeah, the woolly fur underneath.
That's nice.
Is there extra care that goes into preserving that? It's the same process.
Same process.
Same process. Good.
Yep. I mean, if it's going to slip, it's going to slip all the hair.
Sure. Okay.
Undercoat, guard hair, it doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
But it doesn't change the tanning process at all. It may change a little bit how we groom it.
Sure. Yeah.
There's certain tools that I have for thicker coats in the grooming process.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I was curious because I know obviously if you kill a coyote in January, right, that undercoat, that real fluffy warm layer in there like crazy. It's rock solid. But like a bear just popped its den.
Noticed a lot of that will come out.
Yeah.
But it's like on coyotes, like I've had Rob do it and a lot of it will come out, but it's stuff that was going to come out anyway.
Well, that's what I was getting at.
It's not like because of
that's what I was getting at with the spring bears is like, it's about to fall off anyway.
Yeah.
It's that time of year, So
well,
like,
and that's just shed hair. Are you talking about
the shed hair? Yeah.
A lot of that will come out when I'm spinning it in the wash machine between cycles.
Gotcha. Yeah.
There's sometimes I'll look in there. I'm like, oh crap, something's slipping. I'm like, no, it's just the shed hair.
Yeah, just the undercoat.
So that'll help get it out. And then we use curry combs and certain types of fine tooth combs. In that breaking machine I was talking about, the staking machine that I use to soften the hides. A lot of times, what I'll do is I'll put it on the fur side as well, and that helps get that under fur nice and fluffed up.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it also helps clean the hair. If there's any wood flour in there by chance, it gets it out.
Gotcha.
I remember I took you like a bunch of woolly coyotes one year and you're like combing them out and you were just getting wads and I was like, oh my gosh. And you're like, dude, it's fine. Look. And then it like started looking better. And then that's woolly fur got fluffier and it wasn't necessarily better, like thicker and wadded up because I didn't want that to go. And then you're like, you want that out of there. Trust me.
Some animals have a lot of.
It looks so nice.
Yeah.
And it just, you're combing it out for a long time. Cats are real bad with it.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It can be tricky sometimes, but sometimes things take extra work. And we actually I started saving my hair 3 years ago. I started bagging up by species. And then we sell that to local, not seamstress, but the folks that turn the hair into yarn.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. We met a lady a few years back at one of those
no kidding
trade shows or something. And now we save all our fur scraps.
Oh, that's awesome.
Or the fur brushings.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
I know we were out in Nome. We were going around. There's like a certain time, I think it's springtime, the muskox, they start shedding all that fur, and it's just stuck on everything they walk through.
Oh yeah.
And so my brother and I, we just walked around out there and just with bags, just loading that. And I got giant freezer bags full of muskox there, and I guess it's worth a lot of money.
Is it the long hair or the civet?
It's like the woolly stuff.
Yeah, that is expensive,
dude. Because they just everything they walk through, because they'll walk through all that. It's like alders, a lot of alders, and that stuff just gets hung up, and they kind of will deliberately rub. But you'll get like wads of that stuff out.
There was a local guy. I wish I could plug him, but I don't know. I only run into him once at the farmer's market, but he was doing that at a booth at the farmer's market. He had that exactly what you're talking about from a muskox.
I've seen that stuff like $100 for like a bag of that stuff.
And he was turning it into all kinds of stuff. It was really neat. I like seeing stuff like that.
Yeah, I do quite a few muskox as well, and I can get a half a bag full.
Really?
So word to the clients, if you want to keep stuff, you let me know and I'll save it for you. But
it's good stuff. I mean, you can make some things out of that.
That's cool that you offer that. I'd be snagging that.
Oh yeah. Well, I know I've only got one question left for you. Does anybody else have any questions before I rattle off my last question?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, actually, I have two questions because one just popped into my head. Do you do any? So, Chris, you were telling me about this, some of the processes with like finished product with beaver fur. And when somebody shoots a beaver or traps a beaver, let's say that's not necessarily in its prime, and they shave it down to where it's a little bit shorter hair. Is that a process you do, or is that something like a taxidermist would do?
You talking about shearing?
Shearing, yeah.
So what I understand about shearing is you're plucking the guard hairs out of there and literally plucking them.
Oh, gotcha.
I know that there's one tannery in the lower 48. I can't think of the name of it, but they do it. I think it's Tabari. I think they've closed down since, but they were like one of the few, if not only, places that would shear beaver.
Gotcha.
Now, I don't know for sure. Don't take my word for that. But
yeah,
as far as like taking a razor, clippers and shaving it, I don't think that's the same thing.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep. Yeah. You're basically taking those prickly guard hairs out.
Yeah.
To make it soft as seal skin.
Where you're getting that under only, right?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, cool. And if somebody was wanting that done up here, that would be something their fur sewer would do when they get the hide kind of deal.
Yeah. I've never had anybody ask about.
I think you have to send that out to get that done.
Okay. Yeah.
You may have to.
I don't think there's anybody that does it locally.
I don't know of anybody that does it.
Yeah, I've been curious about that since you were telling me about it. So like who?
Well, that's how you would see like hats and stuff where they don't have that long guard hair.
That's
Or I've seen where it's like patchy and like people but the underfur is good and that guard hair is patchy, and then they'll like, I don't know the process.
I think you can do it yourself. It just takes a extreme amount.
Sure.
Hair tweezers.
Yeah. But if it's worth it to you.
Yeah, absolutely. You got nothing else to do.
Yeah, exactly. So my real last question for you is, I know this isn't part of your process of the tanning and everything, but what kind of post-tan care do you recommend for somebody who's not necessarily handing it straight off to a taxidermist, but they want to do a wall hanger, or they just want to splay it out on their wall, like not hanging it like that, but actually kind of like a rug, but not, like people used to do with cow hides back home.
Yeah.
Like what kind of, keep it from getting sun damaged, humidity damaged, temperature damage, stuff like that. What protection post care do you recommend for people?
There's not a lot, really. I've had folks ask me how to transport hides if they're moving overseas and stuff like that. I always tell them to get it in an airtight bag to reduce the moisture levels.
Sure.
And if it gets dirty from the dust in the house or whatever, you can just if you got a leaf blower, take it outside and blow that sucker out, and maybe brush it every once in a while. But other than that, it doesn't require a lot of hide care.
Gotcha.
After it's already processed.
What about in the event of something extreme, like let's say it's in a room that has like fire sprinklers, right?
And it
gets wet, or gets soaked in rain during transport or something like that.
It depends on the type of tan that's been used on that particular skin, because there's some tans that are more acidic than others, especially if you don't get the acid out. And that's another thing I didn't talk about in the process. When we tan it, after we tan it, we neutralize that skin to a baseline 6 or 7. So there's no acid in there.
Gotcha.
And we do that for a specified amount of time. Because what you'll have later on in that skin's is acid rot.
Mm-hmm.
The skin will just literally start coming apart.
Sure. Yeah.
So if there's acid still in the skin and it gets wet, whether sprinklers or you soak it, something doesn't matter, it has the potential to just pull apart like wet toilet paper.
yeah. Gotcha.
I've had that happen to a silver tip fox hide.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
Came apart.
You and I were talking, Rob, about your, like the other day, you kind of brought some stuff up about when I was over there. We were talking about like when you use stuff for garments and how it holds up with like getting wet being used, right? Remember that conversation?
Yeah, the one I confused you on?
Yeah, can you give me a little like, yeah, can you give a little insight on
Confuse him
that?
again.
Well, I was confused myself, so.
I wasn't going to bring that up.
So, we already talked about the garment tan versus taxi tan, the shaving,
Mhm.
the quality of work, the detailed work.
Sure.
So that's one thing. But garment tans, and they can be treated if you're going to be putting them on trim or hats or whatever. But
Like snow machining in them or
Yeah.
like just getting snow on them and stuff.
Gotcha.
but I haven't heard of anybody having any issues with any kind of tan when they're garment like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I have heard the stories of like, because I would really like to get a caribou vest made. Like a for going to church and stuff like that.
I would like that for you.
But somebody, yeah. But
I'm picturing it now.
I would like to go
right?
to church with you with
Right?
wearing that. Definitely.
like cowboy vest, but made
My
out
dad
of
has
caribou.
a whitetail vest with hair.
Yeah,
hair
that's
on
what
it.
I want, but with caribou. Yeah,
That is hard.
Yeah, see, your dad's got good taste. But I've always heard like after
You've
a number
met
of
his
years.
dad, right?
Oh yes.
I don't know if I've ever seen him wear it, but he has.
I have one time, and he complained about his truck seat being full of hair after that.
Yeah,
Because it's
Well,
very, very
breaks
old.
off.
So that's just it.
Very old.
So I've been told like if you plan on wearing it a lot, like, and maybe this is just with the shorter hair, like something like that, like
It's with the
bald
hollow
caribou.
hair.
The hollow hair,
Like
yeah.
caribou hair, right?
It'll
Or
break
moose.
off and
Yep.
kind of shear,
Right.
and then you'll get
Deer.
bald spots and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it won't necessarily slip, but it'll shed.
Yeah.
And that also, so that goes back to hide preparation too. If you don't get to it soon enough, you can have that shedding. Even if it's a good tan, you can still have that shedding. And I never recommend putting it on the floor where it's going to be stepped on.
Yeah.
Even on a couch is kind of risky because you're
Yeah.
leaning up against it and those hairs are going to break
Sure. Yeah.
or could break off.
I'd like to make a bear hair chair.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
So yeah, on that idea, right?
Mhm.
Let's say that's what we were gonna do, and so it's like, well, I don't need to pay for this foot, and I chopped. Was that a?
I will discount that.
Yep. Okay.
Yep. I just got a, I went to the airport to pick up a grizzly bear 2 days ago because I do airport pickups from the villages and
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
do
okay.
air cargo.
Yeah.
And he didn't want the arms on it because he's just using it as a sleeping mat. I'm like, okay, well, it's going to be 65 foot for a regular grizzly bear tan.
Mhm.
But since you want me to cut the arms off, I'm going to cut them off and then I'll just do a square footage tan
Ah,
for
yeah.
you. So he
Yeah.
wants the head on still,
Mhm.
but I'll just lop those arms off and reduce the price.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's a cool idea, actually.
I feel like I still want those paws and arms to do, like
Just
the
wrap
head.
'em around
I
you.
guess it-
can't do much with the head.
Well-
otherwise,
You can put your head in it.
Yeah.
Speaking of paws, though,
you could. That's true.
That's your pillow holder that keeps the pillow in
Yeah.
place.
that'd
Just
be
like a
good.
sleeping bag. Just like a sleeping bag.
Just like a
speaking
sleeping
of
bag.
speaking of paws, though, real quick, I get a lot of questions about, hey, can I bring this in for tanning? It has its paws and claws in it. Is that okay? It's absolutely okay. And I highly encourage everybody to keep their feet on their critters. Unless you know you're sending them to auction, go ahead and lop those feet off if you want. But if you're planning on tanning that to sell especially, keep those feet on because that will increase your price.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Makes it much more appealing.
It
Yeah.
absolutely
It appeals to a broader
yeah.
clientele base.
And I won't sell anything that doesn't have feet on it. Because
Mhm.
it's kind of like a little niche that I do, or niche. I'll buy wolves, I'll buy Wolverine, I'll buy lynx, and I'll buy black bear,
Okay.
tan them and sell them.
Yeah.
And those are like the 4 big ones that all the Facebook followers in the lower 48 want.
Mm-hmm.
So keep those feet on.
Is that something you just price as you look at them?
Yeah, generally
We
as
still
far
pay
as
for
as
it,
far as buying it.
Yeah.
So I start out bears as an example. $30 a foot raw, $5 off for each skinning hole. If you bring it to me salt dried, I'll pay you $40 a foot for it, linear foot.
Mhm.
Wolves, a lot of times, if I got an idea of who I can buy a wolf or wolverine from, I'll say, hey, can I just get it in the hole? Just bring it to me in the round so I can skin it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's going to be a reduced price because they don't have to spend any time skinning it, fleshing it, boarding it, drying it. They just give it to me right off the trap line.
Yeah.
So it depends on the color phase of the wolf and things like that, and the size.
So do you end up with many bear hides, let's say, that people say, hey, I don't want the feet on this, and then you end up with a bunch of claws on hand?
No. If they don't want the feet like this grizzly I just got, he took all the claws out.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would ask.
Yeah. It'd be one of those things you'd probably set aside for them if they wanted them and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'll definitely get confirmation first.
Yeah.
But I don't get a lot of those requests.
Yeah. I was going to say that'd be kind of a rare thing, at least.
I've done it quite a bit with wolves.
Oh, have you?
Because most of the native population, they'll just split them up the middle and throw them out. And then a lot of times they just want the arms cut off because I'll reduce the price.
Right.
Because they're just doing roughs anyway.
Right.
They're making rough.
I see.
Yeah. Yeah. Wolves and Wolverine. I've heard of what they do a lot of that with.
Yeah.
So the frost.
Yeah, especially the Wolverine. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of times when I do have wolves and Wolverine for sale, we've got fur sowers in Wasilla that we sell to.
Okay. Yeah.
Quite a bit.
Mm.
And she makes roughs.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, if you end up with a bunch of claws, I have somebody in state that's making a bunch of jewelry and whatnot.
Okay.
And they're looking for claws and things like that. So
Right on.
hit me up.
No, I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, all right. Do you have any last advice for people with bringing you stuff or anything you'd want to tell people about the process before we wrap up?
No, I think I covered everything. I was when I came in here, I was hoping I'd get everything out because I'm all about passing out information, And if you don't know, just ask somebody.
Perfect. Yeah.
And I'm more than willing to help you out in any way I can.
Right on. All right. Well, thank you for spending your evening with us.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome conversation. We've cracked the 3-hour mark, so you are in the 3-hour club. Congratulations.
Nice. I'm zoned out at this point.
We all are. It's okay. We're about to get to the 11 o'clock goof, so we'll just cut it off before we get there. We get loopy around 11 o'clock.
Start talking about assassination attempts and everything else. Yeah,
all kinds of stuff. Sheesh. But yeah, so I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge and sharing insights to the process. It's been really awesome. Yeah, and another thing too, just thought about it was if any of your listeners have questions, just have them feel free to call me or email me. I can be reached at morriscustomhides@gmail.com. Perfect. And then go ahead and plug your Facebook one more time too. Yeah, it's Morris Custom Hides. Custom Hides is all one word. One word. All right. So email and Facebook is the best way to get a hold of you. Your phone number's on those too, I'm assuming. Yeah, it's on the Facebook page. Perfect. Well, hopefully, if anybody wants to explore more about the tanning process, you guys have got the information you need. So, and whatever you don't know, I'm sure you do. Or I can ask somebody. Or you can point them in the right direction. That's exactly it. Yeah. All right. Well, folks, thanks for listening on this listening in on this conversation. This was a really good one. Again, if you wouldn't mind giving us a rating and a review, 5 stars is always best. And a written review goes a long way in helping us grow this platform and share it with new people. If you use that share button right next to the episodes too, anybody that's interested in the information we talk about in any of these episodes, there's always a share button. Really helps us out if you use it. So please do. We don't pay, do any kind of paid marketing or anything like that. So you guys are our marketing, basically. Don't forget, the Full Draw Film Tour is coming to Fairbanks. If you are a local and would like to attend that, we'll all be there. You can come chat with us, watch some videos from the sounds of it, have some cool giveaways, maybe win something, get to vote. It's like Teen Choice Awards, but for bow hunting. So show up, cast your vote, maybe get some cool stuff and come talk to us. It'll be a good time. We'll have the link in the description for the show. Go ahead and push that. If you have any questions about what we talked about in this show, you can always reach out to The Northern Hunter. If you go to the website, thenorthernhunter.com, we've got our contact button there, or you can find us on Instagram and Facebook. If you search at The Northern Hunter on either one of those, you'll find us, get a message out to us, and we'll respond as promptly as we can. While you're on the website, though, if you'd like to support what we're doing financially, we've got the partners page with a bunch of companies that have decided they like what we're doing and they'd like to support us. So they've given us discount codes on things they sell, all of which is hunting related. It'll get you out in the woods more comfortably, more prepared. And if you use those discount codes, it helps those companies out. It also helps us grow. We've got some merch. I've been seeing some new orders dropping for all over the country, which is awesome. I love seeing when we get listeners down in the South or down in the East Coast. It's really cool to see how far this show's reaching, and that's kind of a way we can do that. Is we can't see the listeners, we can see how many listeners there are and how many from each state, but like it's really cool to see like an individual invest in the platform. We appreciate every single one of you. And if you are rocking the Northern Hunter logo, send us a photo. We'd love to see it. So, and then, thank you once again, Rob, for spending your evening with us and sharing everything. It's been a great conversation. So.
It's been great. Thanks.
All right. Thank you guys, gentlemen. And until next week, get out there, get after it, and good luck. We'll see you there.